Hello, this is the 78th episode of the Funfiltered podcast. I'm Jordan, that's Sam.
Hello.
We're recording this on the 21st of June, or as it's otherwise known, National Ugliest Dog Day.
Oh, is that today?
Yes.
Shit, okay, I forgot.
Sam,
Yeah.
what's the ugliest dog you've ever seen?
The ugliest dog I've ever seen. You want a literal answer or a funny answer?
Surprise me.
I don't have either. I don't know, I don't like pugs.
Okay.
But, yeah, the ugliest dog is probably something that's been like beaten to an inch of its life.
Oh,
and
shit,
has
okay.
an ear hanging off. Not in person,
Right.
but you see pictures of dogs and remember those adverts, the black and white, like, oh, he's a dog and he's sad. You know those adverts?
Because you beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, I remember there was a dog. I've never met the dog, but
Yeah.
I heard tell of a dog that lived in the house by my grandfather.
Legend once spoke of a
Legend once
dog.
spoke of this beast.
Yeah.
And local hoodlums got this little dog and spray painted him and used him like a football.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like horrible.
Yeah.
But you know.
No, why are you saying that with a smile on your face?
Well, it's because it's so vile. They're just like I think it's the fact that it wasn't base cruelty they were kicking this dog, is they spray painted it. It's the fact like, it's gonna look like a football.
Right.
Well, spray paint, like they went to that effort.
Okay.
To like the theatre of the thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, I'll kick the dog about.
Yeah.
Like some work had to go into that. So, no, it's not funny at all, but the industriousness of the violence of it.
You found that really appealing.
I find it amusing in some way.
Okay.
Ugliest, I don't know, you've been to Live Lounge? I don't know why. What do you think's the ugliest dog you've ever seen?
Well, it's probably, if not a pug, because pugs they're in that weird camp where they're so ugly they're cute, right?
To a certain type of person.
To a certain
that doesn't
type
make
of
any
person.
sense to me.
Yeah, but there are dogs that have similar characteristics to pugs.
Okay.
Which are... Actually, no, Chihuahuas are pretty ugly.
Yeah, they are ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, what's the canine equivalent of those hairless cats?
Yeah, that's... I was thinking Chihuahua, but I think there's another breed.
There's one, like, a little thing that kind of has hair around maybe, like, its main area.
Yeah, whenever they kind of depict that dog in, like, animation or fiction, it's usually, like... It's like it's on coke, isn't it? It's kind of shaking and...
Pekingese?
Maybe.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Pekingese, maybe.
Yeah, there's kind of highly strung...
It looks like a crack hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, the long hair, but it's scraggly. It looks like Wendy from Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a disgusting dog.
Yeah. But I think, like, yesterday or the day before, it was National Dog Mum Day or something.
Well, Is
it a coincidence that it's the Dog Month is the same month as Pride?
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm just saying.
I was going to say it's a very doggy day because it's Ugliest Dog Day. It's also National Dash Hound Day.
Okay.
And it's also National Take Your Dog to Work Day.
So there's definitely a thing, right? Dogs are this month for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do Pride and dogs have in common?
I don't know. Why are you trying to draw a connection?
Well, because they're both June is the Pride and Dog Month.
Yeah.
So what's the connection?
Well, I say the whole reason. I didn't have a motive for this.
Oh yeah.
But no, I didn't. I swear. But it's like it's not just Pride Month. It's also other months as well.
What other months is it?
It's Children Awareness Month.
Okay. What's that mean?
You need to be aware of children, Sam.
They don't have to be aware.
No, the children have to be aware. We have to be aware of them.
Right, okay.
Because they're not yet aware.
Okay.
Cataract Awareness Month.
Okay.
Were you aware of cataracts?
I know of cataracts.
Good, okay. Oral Health Month.
Okay. See, cataracts, there's something there about the blindness of the Pride ideology. But
what are you doing?
What's the other one?
Oral health.
Well.
Yeah, less said the better. It's also Rebuild Your Life Month. You're going to say something about, that's the opposite of...
After you go through the mess that is Pride, you have to rebuild your life.
You have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
What?
National Fruit and Veg Month.
Do the Rex and Rex.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, coming up this episode.
We give you this episode's Rex and this episode's Rex.
And we review the miniseries Eric.
And Unfrosted.
Is it a wreck?
Or is it a wreck?
Like a
recommendation.
Or a wreck.
Now that we slammed Pride.
Yeah, anyway.
Let's do the Rex and Rex. Okay, so the first rack is challenges.
Oh, that's funny. Is this the one with the bisexuals and tennis in it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We're
in Pride Month.
It's the special Pride episode of Funfiltered.
God, can you imagine? Well, it's a very physical film. It's very sweaty, a lot of sheen, a lot of meat.
Yeah.
A lot of focus... Don't say it like that. A lot of focus on the human form.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like that at all. I really don't like it.
This is the special Pride episode, Sam.
Yeah, we aren't gay, though.
No, but it's
and if we were, it'd be nothing to be proud of.
Carry on.
It features very confident performances from the three leads. And there are basically no other characters, effectively, are there? It really is just those three.
Oh, yeah.
It's very focused. They're a very good ensemble. There's part of me that wishes Zendaya was a bad actress because she's so adored. So much is heaped on her, but she isn't. And that's quite frustrating.
She isn't as in...
She isn't a bad actress.
She's good.
She's a good one. She's very good. Josh O'Connor, too, I find him very compelling screen presence.
As opposed to Josh O'Connor 1.
2 isn't also.
I see, okay.
Yeah, you're one of your funny moods today, are you? Pretty unsubtle, not particularly complex. It's a relatively straightforward love triangle story with tennis as a metaphor, but it has a kineticism and a style that you'd otherwise find in more superficial films, like a Michael Bay film or something like that. This isn't superficial. It's basic, but made with a lot of energy, a lot of verve, propelled along by its pulsing electronic score, which is...
I think it's Atticus Ross, Trent
Reznor, yeah. And the final match is fab.
Yeah, I think that's when you were recommending it to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of, your punctuation for the recommendation as well was that last match.
Yeah. If you won't rewatch the film, but you might well rewatch the final match. Yeah, it kind of frenetically employs every directorial technique possible, doesn't it? Like angles you wouldn't have even
how can we film a tennis match in a way it's not been filmed before?
Right. But in 1,000 different ways as well. Not sticking to any one thing.
No.
And that's not to say that everything that comes before is bad, but it's well worth the wait. Yeah, you won't rewatch the film, but you might well rewatch the finale.
You might do. The only negative thing really I've got to say about it is that, I mean, that score is good. It's not the type of music I typically listen to, but I think it works in the film.
Yeah.
Because when it's playing over the tennis, as you say, it adds a kineticism. And when it plays over conversations, that kind of juxtaposition is nice. But sometimes the music will just start.
Yeah.
And there's no build-up to it. It just goes. So it'll be like two guys in a sauna talking, and then the music will just kind of start mid-sentence.
Right.
And it almost feels like a mistake, like it started too early, or that it started at the wrong time in the scene.
I can't say that I noticed that, but valid criticism, if that's the case.
I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying that, there were moments where it was like, oh, that didn't feel...
organic.
Yeah, it didn't feel natural.
Okay. Maybe that's the point.
Maybe.
You're kind of meant to notice it. I don't know, scores are a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think the scores that everyone would say are the greatest are very obvious and noticeable.
Yes.
But the philosophy of composing a score generally is, people shouldn't really notice it.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't dictate mood. It should kind of undergird the mood that's already there.
Yes, yeah.
But that's challenges.
Yeah.
Civil War.
Yes, this isn't the one with the bisexuals and the tennis.
There might well be bisexuals, but there's certainly no tennis.
Okay.
It's solid, I thought.
Okay.
It's a solid thriller.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's much more than that.
Well, it's a Rex, so presumably we're broadly positive on it, right?
Well, we'll come to this later, but we're finding a problem with Rex and Rex, aren't we? Because there are these edge cases happening.
Yeah.
Films we want to talk about that aren't long enough for reviews, but aren't a recommendation, and they're not car wrecks.
Yeah.
So, but they have to go somewhere.
And you're saying this is one such edge?
No, I'm saying I would recommend it. This is not a bad film, and it's not a nothing film. It is a broadly good film, but there are problems with it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for depth, you're not going to find much.
Yeah, it's definitely one of it probably is Alex Garland's least interesting film, I think. Yeah, probably. I mean, Men was a weird one. But Men has... So you've got... As far as I know, this is the filmography. You've got Ex Machina.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is that, obviously, the central thrust of the film is Oscar Isaac is trying to convince Donald Gleeson that the Alicia Vikander robot is a real person.
Well, Ex Machina is an unconditionally good film.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Great Oscar-nominated.
Yeah, and it's because of that. It's because it's those three people giving fantastic performances in aid of that.
Brilliant script.
It's a brilliant script as well, because while Donald Gleeson's being convinced, you're being convinced as well, even though you know this is a robot.
If not prescient, then relevant.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was ahead of its time, because I think that stuff was being talked about.
Oh, yeah.
But relevant.
Ongoingly
relevant.
Certainly relevant now. Yeah. Then you've got Annihilation.
Also very good.
Also a very good film.
Yeah.
Great little metaphor in the middle. You've got that dome that is just like, it just appears one day and it's growing and everything inside it, just like the DNA just completely unravels.
Yeah.
And it's all one big metaphor for cancer. great.
Yeah.
Solid little, and some of the,
And
like...
weird.
And it's weird
Like
as
some
well.
weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and there's just good, like, little scenes of just unsettling horror in
the
there
bear.
as well. Yeah, the bear, exactly, yeah.
And the score, I remember, is very good.
Yeah, score's fantastic as well. Then you got Men, which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
You're not a fan of.
No.
But, I mean, just like the premise of it, the fact that...
An interesting idea.
It's an interesting idea, yeah, that all the men are played by the same guy. Mm-hmm. And you said in your, like, micro review of it, whenever we covered it before, that there's a monologue in there about misogyny that you remember and that you really like.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's kind of similar to the You'll Never Find Me little monologue, where it seems like hit a nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. And Rory Kinnear and Jessie Buckley are good actors. But yeah, the thing, it kind of fell apart, and it had a goofiness to it that undermined it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. And yeah, now Civil War.
And then you come to Civil War, which is just kind of...
interesting if done differently, right? So like on the page, if we're doing like, so the current political polarization, everyone's talking about an impending civil war in America.
Yeah.
You know, let's actually do that.
Yeah.
Let's make a film. That's interesting. But the film doesn't really, for better or for worse, however you view it, it doesn't really go there.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think when people talk about that civil war, it's usually race, motivated by race, or it's motivated by...
partisanship.
Or by politics. And... yeah, the film never really touches on it, but it doesn't seem to be motivated by either of those things. And we don't really know what it is motivated by.
Nothing and everything, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate its deliberate apoliticism. It's very clearly said, this is not about taking a side.
Yeah.
And for a change, that isn't lip service, right? Because whenever something says, oh, we're apolitical, it's not. This genuinely is. Mention is made at one point of the Antifa massacre. But there's a deliberate ambiguity over whether they were the victims or the perpetrators. Yeah. Right? So that's the film in a nutshell. The Texas-California alliance is so far from any geopolitical reality that it's clearly Garland making a statement on not taking sides.
Yeah.
You pair those two together, it's, okay, this is kind of another world in a way.
Yeah.
There are shades of Trump in the president and his regime. So the FBI has been disbanded. Trump has made no secret of his dislike for the Bureau. Journalists are treated as enemy combatants. Trump has made anti-media remarks. And the president wants to flee to Greenland. Trump once suggested buying Greenland.
Right.
But equally, any American dictator would do in the FBI and would execute journalists.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting one. The cast is good, especially Kirsten Dunst and Kaylee Spaney. I like Kaylee Spaney a lot.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Kaylee Spaney now.
Yeah. No, I really do like her. Priscilla's like the best thing she's done so far. So if you like her in this. Jesse Plemons steals the scene he's in.
Yeah.
As this.
But it's only militant. A scene. Like, this is the type of film that could have done with more of him.
Yeah, but that character couldn't have been in much more, right?
But no, that's fair.
Just him, yeah. The imagery is memorable, so you get a shootout in the corridors of the West Wing, you get the mass grave. It's very well shot. Outside of the war-torn regions, there's an appropriate depiction of social breakdown, so people still cycle to work, but there are weeds overgrown, and it's kind of like midway between Armageddon and
It's interesting, because a lot of that imagery is good,
yeah.
But it was interesting, because I think one of the first things we see is, like, the empty streets of New York City, and post-2020,
right, that
doesn't feel alien anymore.
No, that's true.
So even though, there's more overt kind of post-apocalyptic / on the fringe of apocalypse imagery, especially towards the end when it's just all-out war at the front of the White House.
Yes.
Yeah, there's kind of imagery in the beginning that kind of made me think, oh, maybe this isn't good. Like, if this had come out 3 or 4 years ago, this would have been more shocking.
Well, we have lived through an experience that was objectively, aesthetically apocalyptic.
Yeah.
The fact that no one was in the streets. It wasn't an apocalypse.
No.
Really wasn't.
Yeah.
But yes, all of a sudden, the dolphins are in Venice or wherever the fuck it is.
Yeah, people were queuing outside of supermarkets for them, not miles, but like they were queuing for food and
exactly.
Supplies were limited and no one went anywhere.
Yeah, it had the decoration of the end of the world.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the score in this as well. I thought the score was very good. Early on, we see the side of a cop car, and it says on it, courtesy, professionalism, respect, which spells out CPR, right? I thought that might have been a clever, if annoying, little pot shot at trigger-happy cops. That you see CPR on the side of a cop car.
Okay.
But it turns out that's a genuine thing. Cop cars in New York do say CPR, courtesy, professionalism, respect.
Oh, right, okay.
But I thought, that's I don't like it, but that's clever. And I don't know, in real life, that seems unwise, because I know CPR is a life-saving procedure.
Yeah.
It's like, with the lifesavers, but it just makes me think of someone being shot. You don't need CPR unless you're dead. Unless you're dying. So. Ultimately, the film is a little hollow. I much prefer this over the didactic crap it could have been. But without specifically tackling what's going on right now, the only real message of the film is anti-Civil War.
Yeah.
Which is fine, just don't expect more than that.
Yeah.
I do feel an obligation to flag up the use of AI whenever we are aware of it.
Oh, of course.
And AI was used in the marketing of this film. It's not the film itself, but the marketing.
Yeah, well, that's where it's going to start, isn't it? It's going to be in the places where it doesn't matter, quote unquote.
Interstitials.
And then, and it'll start to seep in.
And that's the thing. It could have been worse. But again, if we're not calling out the could have been worses, then we're just slouching towards Bethlehem, as a good writer once put it. That's kind of it for Civil War.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Elsbeth, season 1.
Season 1, because there's more?
It's been renewed for season 2.
Been renewed.
Yes.
Yay.
So this is a show from Robert and Michelle King, them's behind The Good Wife, The Good Fight, and Evil, most famously. They have become among my favourite writers for television.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, I saw The Good Wife years and years ago. And I think at the time, Breaking Bad, the best thing on TV, all that. I don't know, I'm more drawn to kind of crime dramas and that sort of thing. I don't know, like, why do you see something sometimes and not really appreciate it, but then you go back to it? And I suppose sometimes when you watch something alone, you just kind of, especially something like The Good Wife, which is network, 22 episode season, 7 seasons long, you just kind of blaze through it.
Yeah.
Then when you sit down, you watch it with someone, you go, oh, this is really good. And you properly appreciate it. And then the same with Evil. I watched the first 2-3 seasons of Evil and like, yeah, it's good. Happened with Succession.
Yeah.
It took me, I had to catch up to how good that was. Why? What is it about the Kings? I don't know. I like this sense of humour.
Well, I was going to say, it's not, they're not like Aaron Sorkin. They don't have like an immediately recognisable style.
That's one of the things I like about them.
Okay.
Is because I've been watching The West Wing as well, like with my mother. And as good as that show is, when Sorkin's doing it, it's Sorkin. That every character talks the same. I like with their things, characters are different. They speak differently.
The Kings now.
The Kings, yeah. They have their own idiosyncrasies. They bring their own things to the table. One of the things I like about them the most is that I can't tell that it's a Robert Michelle King thing.
Okay.
I suppose if you're going to try and identify their motifs, their traits, they like writing about current issues a lot. Very current issues, current news events, and doing their own spin on them. They do have a sense of humour injected into very serious situations. That's kind of it, really. I wouldn't know where else to... What about you? I mean, you've watched Evil. You're watching Evil and The Good Wife.
Yeah.
What do you think is their thing?
Yeah, I really don't know what their thing is, because The Good Wife and Evil are very different entities from each other.
They are.
Especially now we kind of hit the point where Evil sort of moved over to streaming, so it's become a bit more... Like, there's more accommodation now for swearing and kind of innuendo and stuff.
Oh, it's very quick. I suppose another thing that you could say about them is even doing a 10, 13 episode season of something, even on cable, there's still procedurals. So there's still overarching stories and the weird, like I said, idiosyncratic characters and storylines, but there's still procedural shows, which is there's a group of characters that have a mission every week to do something.
Well, Elsbeth is that.
Elsbeth is that as well, yeah. More so than Evil.
Yeah, it's probably the most procedural thing that I've seen of theirs that they've done.
Yeah, but like The Good Wife, a new case every week, even with massive ongoing storylines, is usually a new case. Evil, a new person that's been possessed, they have to go and look at whatever, new case. Yeah, so that's kind of their thing. So this show is a spin-off of The Good Wife and The Good Fight.
Yeah.
It retains the cleverness of those other shows, but with less gravitas. So it's much broader. It doesn't require a serial mindset. It's more about the fun.
Yeah.
So Poker Face and Only Murders in the Building are bedfellows, I would say.
Yeah. Well, it kind of does the same thing, where it sort of shows you the crime happening in the first, like, as the cold open.
Same as Poker Face.
Yeah, same as Poker Face, and then the character comes into it and they have to piece it together from there.
Yeah, it's the how catch 'em, they're known as. It's rather than the whodunit. Yeah, Columbo, I think, did that as well.
Okay.
Elsbeth Tassioni is exactly the kind of character I would find annoying, yet I don't.
Okay.
That's curious. I enjoy spending time in her company. The show is basically absent of negativity, even with people being murdered.
Yeah.
And has a more overtly comical and whimsical bent than the other King joints. There's a cheeky, satirical humour that adorns even the most serious work, like I said. But here it's poised on an area more light-hearted confection. The only thing that I have bad to say about it is that it does get samey.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a show it's so easy to digest that it lends itself to being binged.
Yeah.
but it's so samey that that isn't the ideal way to consume it.
No, and this isn't it. It's 10-episode season, but it's not a cable show. It's on CBS, I think.
Okay.
There's something about network shows that it's meant to be, even though it's a shorter run now, literally, the show Friends, it's about you're hanging out with your friends. You see these people 22 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
Tune in every week and you get to hang out with these people. And that's what the best network shows do, is you really want to spend time with the characters. And there's just something comforting about network.
Yeah.
Elspeth's a bit edgier than the typical fare, and it's a bit more, like I said, satirical because it's dealing with very current issues and very annoying New York people, artists and fashion designers and all that kind of thing. But they know they're ridiculous. The show is written kind of mocking them in some way.
Yeah.
But it's still, there's a comfort to it. It's like, it's 40 minutes, it will not be longer.
Yeah.
And I won't have to think. It's going to be clever and cerebral, but I'm not really going to have to think.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I miss that. I miss television that did that.
Well, it's here.
It's here.
In the form of Elspeth.
Yes. That's it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Fall Guy.
Yeah, this isn't a film that stays with you, is it?
No, well, this is the edge case to which I earlier referred.
Oh, okay.
We don't have a category that sits between Wreck and Wreck. If we did, that's what this would be for me.
Okay.
It's not a bad film, so I'll put it here. It sometimes feels like Ryan Gosling is treating his presence in films as a big inside joke. I don't know if you get. Do you get that vibe?
Oh, isn't it funny that Ryan Gosling's doing a film like this? Is that
kind of like I'm better than this.
Okay.
Isn't it ironic that I'm playing Ken? Or isn't it ironic that I'm in The Fall Guy? I don't know. And I'm not saying that's what he thinks.
Yeah.
But Ryan Gosling, and understandably so, has not smarmy, but he has a kind of cockiness about him a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if you find that. In real life, I mean.
Okay.
He smiles a lot.
How dare he?
As though, no, but he smiles as though he's in on a joke you're not.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, that might just be his face.
He's the most good. No, trust me.
Okay.
Trust me on that. I like Ryan Gosling. I'm not slamming him. But he, like I said, he's like the most good-looking guy in the world. He's ripped. He's got a hot wife. He's a millionaire movie star. People like him as well. He has every right to kind of be cocky.
Yeah.
But I don't know, especially in a film like this, it's like it's ironic somehow that he's in it. It's hard to explain. But in these films, he sometimes sets the phaser to stun, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So, yeah, Emily Blunt is always good. Hannah Waddingham is pretty good. She's the British woman that's in it.
Oh, yeah, she's the woman I told you about, where I watched 3 things in one day where she was the villain.
Yeah. Ted Lasso was her big international breakout. I know it's intended as shameless mainstream entertainment, down to its very obvious song choices, but it just felt empty.
Well,
I just didn't care. There's a difference between simple and empty.
Okay.
The stunts weren't particularly impressive.
Okay.
Especially with the addition of CG.
Yeah, Yeah. But that's the thing, it's a shame that I have to say this, but we're not going to get like a Jackie Chan film.
No, I know.
Over here where you just keep doing the stunt until you get it right.
Yes.
And you've got to do it as practical as you can.
Yeah, no.
That just isn't the Hollywood way. And it feels like this should be the one exception to the rule. It's a film about stuntmen.
Yes. That ends with showing you the stunts in the film, how they perform.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of a celebration of the stuntman. Is the whole idea of the film.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the Oscars are considering introducing stunt as a category now.
Well, hopefully that would encourage people to do it more. But that's the thing. Like, I kind of thought of when I was watching it. You never saw the Assassin's Creed film, did you?
I did not.
No, good on you.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that where, because obviously in the Assassin's Creed games, you do this thing called leap of faith, where you jump off a giant building into some hay at the bottom. Yeah, and they did that in the film. A stuntman jumped, I think it was something like 120 feet in the air, and he landed. And that was a practical stunt.
Yeah.
But the entire environment around him in the film was CG.
Right.
And they covered the screen in smoke.
So who cares?
Who cares if he jumped 120 feet? He jumped 120 feet from something that wasn't real to something else that wasn't real.
Right. And there's a fine line between doing that and doing what they do in the Mission Impossible franchise, which is all of a sudden, it's like a YouTube video, like GoPro. Like it's set up, so it's like, watch this stunt now.
Yeah.
And it does for me, it takes me out of the film. It's like, I know these films are built around what stunt is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's like stunt time now.
Yeah.
So we'll just film it in an interesting way, you know? I believe that Tom Cruise
it is kind of interesting because, the film is stripping away all artifice. It's like, look at this impressive thing we're about to do.
Yeah, but it takes you out of it, doesn't it?
But
Stunts should be...
But that's what a Mission Impossible film is for now. It's not.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a film that exists to be in it.
Fine, but like you can watch better things like that on YouTube. You know.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you can't. I don't know. I don't feel like you should do that in a film. But like, okay, this is the moment now. The stunt. It'd be fine, like I said, if it wasn't filmed in such an overtly we've set up 20 different camera kind of way. You know.
Yeah.
If it was just an organic, look, the Bourne Ultimatum, that jump through the window, everyone remembers that stunt. I've seen how they filmed that stunt. You know, a guy did it. Doesn't take you out of the film. You just think it's cool.
Yeah.
With Mission Impossible, they fucking flag it. It's like, okay, and the motorbike is reversing. Okay, here we go. Anyway, continue with the Fall Guy. Whatever you were saying.
So I think that's kind of what you want to avoid when you're doing a film where you're putting stunts front and center. Is you don't want to do the Assassin's Creed thing.
Yes.
You've done the stunt, but you've done a load of shit to the stunt that kind of removes it.
Literally obscures it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not impressive anymore, even though he did jump 120 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's not a film that sticks with you. I remember enjoying it when it was on.
Okay. See, I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like Phil Collins is Against All Odds, so I was happy to hear that in the film.
Right.
Yeah, it's in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't rise to the level of gag reflex, there's a timbre to it. It seems most comedies these days have, that I find very unappealing.
Okay.
So even if it's not literally doing the gag reflex thing, they have that air about them. Again, it's hard to explain. I mean, there isn't much comedy I do like anymore.
Well, there isn't much good comedy anymore.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. And it's hard to know whether that would always have been the case. As it always would have been the case that 90% of comedy I don't like. But I don't think that's true. I think there's more bad comedy now than there ever has been.
I do wonder sometimes, because you've got... I mean, Britain kind of went through its own little comedy revolution. What was it, like the 60s or the 70s?
Depends
or the 80s?
what you're talking about.
Well, like the Young Ones and Monty Python and stuff like that.
80s, yeah.
Yeah, where it was just this whole school of comedy.
Alternative comedy.
Which, never existed before.
Yeah, alternative.
You show, the Young Ones, you show that to an old person at that time.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is this?
It was that and punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show the Young Ones to a young person at that time. It's the greatest thing they've ever seen.
Young people that saw it invariably cite it as the reason they became comedians or went into writing comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because those young people are our parents,
yes,
that's kind of carried over to us, because you could look back at it and go, oh yeah, I see the importance of that. I can trace its place in history. Yeah, I see the appeal in it. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder, where's the bad comedy and where's the comedy that we're just too old to get? Are we at that point now where if the next Young Ones happened, would we be in the camp that would go, oh, what the fuck is this? You know?
I don't think that will happen to us. I think you get too old. There are things that young people say that just goes over my head. Yeah, genuinely. With style and taste, I think because we are plugged into that stuff, it's harder to lose us in that way. Okay, right? I think Scott Pilgrim, if we were 50 and we'd seen that, we would still like it. Okay, I think. Okay, because we're film people. I think your average viewer, yes, times change, sensibilities change. And a lot of the music that comes out now, I go, what is that shit? But I always thought that. I always thought that most music was shit. And there is the music being made now that I like. I don't seek it out, but there is good music. Yeah. But it's not like everything I hear that's new, I go, oh, it's awful. Just most of it. Yeah, so, but I take your point. Yeah, I mean, are there any comedies that are proper subverse? Thing is, punk and the young and alternative comedy arose during Thatcher's prime ministership. Yeah. So it was very much a left-wing response to a decade of conservatism. The punk thing now, as we talked about, is to be conservative. Yeah. It really is.
Well, I was going to say, we've had more than a decade of conservatism, certainly in this country.
Oh, yeah, but it's a dead conservatism. Okay. It's I was thinking about this with Christianity, talking about how if you draw a picture of Muhammad, you're dead. But if you draw a picture of, you do the piss Christ, no one is going to do anything because Christianity used to be strong and now it's weak. Not the same with Islam. Conservatism used to be strong, now it's weak. People would say that in America, Trump and everything, that's its own phenomenon. That's not conservatism. Okay. Ronald Reagan was the peak. Him and Thatcher in the 80s, that was strong conservatism. America's a dying country. It's a dying empire. All these things are weak now. They're watered down. So there really is kind of the punk thing is gone. Certainly on the left wing, because now left wing governs everything where punk could be a feature. Okay. So media or education, it's all left wing dominated anyway. So yeah, the punk thing would be to be conservative, but to be actually conservative is quite a boring thing to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an edgy thing to be. So that's why the alt-right guys evolve, because it's like, oh, we're gonna be punk conservative, which is, you know, we're gonna be horrible to women and
we're gonna do some damage
to immigrants and all that kind of thing. So I don't know what all that was. It was an interesting little tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think there is a place for punk TV. I suppose someone like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared has the ring of something that could be punk TV, but that's kind of more of an artifact of the internet. It's not really television. I mean, television's dead. So, everything's dying. So
well, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Like, I don't know if it is punk, because the humor in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is very typical of a certain subculture of the internet.
But that's the problem with the internet, is that because everything's catered to.
Yeah.
So there's no, you know, paedophiles or a community now. It's not one bloke that is like shamed by the village.
Yeah.
They have organisations.
They have meetings and
NAMBLA, you know. Even though that predates the internet, but still.
Yeah. Because what's interesting about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is the punkishness, if there's anything punk about it.
Yeah.
Is more in its kind of rejection of
linear storytelling.
Yeah, it's more just like, it's like memes nowadays. Yeah. There's even memes about these memes, about like when memes started on the internet, it would be like a picture of a velociraptor scratching its chin.
Right.
And it would be like, oh, I'm thinking about something.
Yeah, like pretty straightforward.
Yeah, whereas now memes nowadays are like deep fried images of people running down corridors saying, me and the homies looking for beans. It's just nonsense.
Right. I mean, but that's even more linear than some of the shit I've seen.
That's the thing. It's kind of a rejection of sense, almost.
It's levels of irony on top of irony on top of ironies, and it just becomes this vortex of kind of, oh, you don't take anything at face value. Don't take anything literally. Yeah. Don't take anything I'm saying as what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's the whole Gen Z thing. It's nothing is real.
Yeah.
Everything's permitted, going back to Assassin's Creed, but I loathe that. I find that disgusting. That to me is like I'm just that frequency. I can't hear it. I'm too old to hear that frequency. Okay. Because that does happen, right? You get too old to hear certain frequencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that was the Fall Guy.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Watch it. You won't remember it.
Yeah, I wouldn't discourage people from seeing it, but I would never encourage anyone to see it either.
Okay.
If it's on and you have nothing at all else better to do. But I can't imagine many scenarios where that would be the case.
Yeah.
There's probably something better to do than seeing The Fall Guy.
Probably.
Clip your toenails. Okay, Hitman.
Yeah.
Yes, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
I was looking forward to this.
I wasn't.
No?
I don't look forward to Linklater films because he's a very quiet filmmaker. But in
sometimes
a way, that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say, in a way, kind of going back to what you were saying about The Kings, in its own way, that can be quite appealing, is that he just kind of lets the film do the talking.
He's not an unappealing director, filmmaker. And the thing I like about him is that, again, you couldn't tell what a Linklater film was. And he has done loads of different genres, loads of different types of films. Yeah. Which I like. He's a true craftsman and a technician. But his films, if they share something in common, it's they very rarely they don't poke their heads above the parapet. They are unassuming films. They're very Austin, which is where he's from. Okay. Austin back in the day, not so much now. Yeah, like the Before trilogy, I love. I love the Before trilogy for the scripts and the performances. What else?
School of Rock.
And School of Rock, yeah, which is the most commercial Linklater film.
Yeah. But I think we said before, one of the really appealing things about School of Rock is that, it's got a great central performance from Jack Black and it's got a good script, but it's not a film that you would go to if you wanted like an example of something that's great about filmmaking. No. It's not like, oh, there's great directing or there's great cinematography or there's great whatever, but it's a great film regardless. Yeah, no, it's great directing because it's not showy, right? Yeah. So it's proper great directing. But that film is, it's a brilliant script that is just completely catered to the talents of its lead performer. His best performance, basically. That or Bernie, another Richard Linklater film. Okay. Yeah, but exactly. Like School of Rock, who directed that? Like, who knows? Yeah. You wouldn't know, right? There are echoes of Bernie in Hitman. Glenn Powell is good, but it wasn't the performance kaleidoscope that it had been made out to be. Yeah, a lot of that stuff was kind of off to the side, really. It wasn't the main thrust of the story. What I appreciate how quickly they get to it. I think his first scene where he has to pretend to be a hitman, it's like 3 minutes into the film. Yes. It's really, really quick. Yeah. And it's like, oh, fuck, fair play. And I thought maybe like, the first time will be really bad and then he has to train himself up. No, he's good from the start.
Right.
So it's like, wow, okay, we're just in this now.
Yeah.
And there's an ease to it, the way that it kind of trundles along, which feels more characteristic of like an older film from like the noughties.
Well, that's very Linklater as well.
Yeah.
They're easy things that you're never kind of uncomfortable watching.
And that I really liked.
Yeah.
Is that, this is nice, this is easy. It's competent.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to want anything from me. It's just here.
Have you ever seen Richard Linklater? Or heard him speak?
No.
He's a very breezy kind of guy.
Okay.
He's kind of like, if you lived on the coast, he'd be like a beach bum sort of guy.
Okay.
But with more discipline and,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just that sort of bloke, which is he doesn't really care about... You don't get the sense he cares about being showy or winning awards. Boyhood is the one from his that really broke through because of its unique
how long it took.
And how they made it. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I agree with you about that. But, I mean, one of the problems for me is that Glenn Powell, he just doesn't have the nebbishy look that character needed.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's always the risk when you've got a character that changes that much over the course of a film, where you kind of... I mean, Walter White, they were lucky that Bryan Cranston could be Walter White in season 1 and Heisenberg in season 5.
Yeah.
They cast Glenn Powell to be the guy that he turns into, not the guy he starts as.
Yes.
And you can tell that, and that is unfortunate. But I didn't find him unlikable. Did you find him unlikable?
No, I didn't find him unlikable. I mean, I'm not a massive Glenn Powell fan.
Okay.
There's something about him that hasn't clicked for me yet. No, it wasn't that he's unlikable, it's just that he didn't look the part. He doesn't look like a frumpy professor that then becomes this badass.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy that they give him a slightly longer hair than he would have, and he's wearing glasses. He's still a tall, good-looking, clearly ripped guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there's a bit of distance there. Adria Arjona, I think that's how you pronounce her name, and Austin Emilio, they're good.
Okay.
It moves along briskly. It has, like you said, that ease that Linklater brings to his films. I have one moderately sized issue. The film is almost exactly 10 minutes too long.
Okay, all right.
So there's a natural end point. That is the spoilers. The two main characters, they murder a bent cop that is trying to blackmail them. And then that's followed by a coda, right?
Okay.
Now, one could argue that as the ending, them murdering the cop, would be too dark a finale for this film.
Yeah.
But not really, because it's handled just as airily as the rest of the film is. Much of the film's appeal is that juxtaposition, right? That it treats twisted subject matter and really twisted characters with a lightness of touch.
Yeah, but it keeps them at arm's length. It keeps the darkness at arm's length.
Yeah, it's not like man bites dog, or something like that.
Okay.
It's a mockumentary following a serial killer that is just like raping and murdering people, and the documentary is very impassively filming it.
Oh, shit.
And then as the film goes on, start to become more complicit and like setting things up for him, and then even getting involved in the raping and the murdering, like that kind of. It's a satire, but that's pretty dark. No, it's not as hard, like big a distinction as that, but it's a fucked up situation these people are in, and it's treated with a light sense of humor that belies how dark the situation actually is.
Okay.
I think that's a lot of the appeal of the film, and that being the end point is just the kind of ultimate expression of that. One large size nitpick: the only reason for that epilogue, as far as I can see, is that it's based on a real guy. The film's based on a real guy that was actually a decent bloke in real life and didn't commit murder. So that wasn't the sour note they wanted you leaving the film on. But that makes the climax a pretty strange choice, right? Because we know that the film's inspired by the life of Gary Johnson's his name.
Yeah.
Not a factual retelling. But why veer so far from biopic with the killing when it's instantly undercut by an on-screen text that says they made that part up?
Just because the story, it makes more sense to end the story the way they did, I suppose, given the events that have come before.
Do you think? What, that they just end up together and have kids?
Well, that they killed the cop. Because that's what you're referring to, right? Is the fact that he never killed anyone, but they show him killing someone.
Yeah. It's not that. It's that they then instantly say, "Oh, but he didn't do that."
Yeah.
So well, why do it then? Do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of an answer to give you.
Okay. Well, I think it's just a strange choice. I would say it's a tricky one, right? Because I would say the right choice would have been to use Gary Johnson's life as inspiration without using his name.
Okay.
Or his circumstances. Different name, different circumstances. Then you can invent as much as you want without having to clarify that it's invention.
Yeah.
So that you don't besmirch Gary Johnson's reputation. Equally, I know they obviously wanted people to know about what Gary Johnson did.
Yeah.
But they tell us in the opening text what you're about to see is a somewhat true story. I think most of the audience can put two and two together. We don't have to be told he didn't kill someone.
Okay.
If I'm really curious or concerned about whether he murdered someone, I could just Google it and find out that he didn't. Other than that, I got nothing really. It's fine. It's solid.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I enjoyed this one.
Okay. You won't forget it as readily as you will The Fall Guy.
No, but it is beneath where I wanted it to be.
It's not meager, that's too harsh, but it's a slighter work than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
More modest work.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to expect, I suppose, we'll link later.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, New Life. This is the one you haven't seen.
Yes.
Right, okay.
I did all right this week.
You did all right, yeah. This month, you mean. A quite low budget, quite quaint genre hybrid. It truly begins as one film, then mutates into another. It has two female leads, one of whom has a particularly unique storyline. So John Wick is a go-to example of a universe populating itself with mythology.
Okay.
Right? Such things bring to mind comic books. You know, like the hotel and it's this clan and this one.
Yeah, just kind of immediately distinct iconography.
Yes, exactly. That's designed to kind of...
Be remembered and lead to merchandise, right? Yeah.
So this isn't that. But there are elements that suggest a lived-in world, more akin to a TV show in this case. I like that a lot.
Okay, so you're saying this is that John Wick thing, but done well?
Yeah, as in there are setups and kind of this... There's the setup and you go, oh, I feel like I should know what that is, like as though this is a sequel.
Okay.
But not in a way where you feel left out. You go, oh, okay, that's just this character's world. It heavily features Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone.
Okay.
I was surprised because I would expect his catalogue to be pricey.
Mm.
So I did a little dive on this, right? And I read an article in 2015 where a bunch of industry professionals spoke of how simple it was to use this stuff. He has a music manager named Jeff Rosen, who essentially handles that side of things and will argue for their use if he creatively supports the project. One person said that their fee for using the song was symbolic. So reading between the lines, I think they cut a very good deal to use Bob Dylan's music. Which was just a refreshing little insider story. The fact that you'd think, oh God, that's the budget. Yeah. But no, it turns out if his music manager likes it, he'll just give it to you. Okay. Basically. Dylan has since sold his back catalogue to Universal Music Group, so I don't know how that affects things.
Right, okay.
But anyway, I sell this film very humbly.
Right.
It won't blow you away, but it's something a little different, and I think worth checking out.
Okay. Well, I don't know what it is.
Exactly, and I don't want to say what it is, really.
Okay.
It's a genre hybrid, it's a genre movie. So make of that what you will.
Okay, I guess I will.
Genre, as people say it's a genre movie, they mean it's sci-fi, fantasy, horror, that kind of thing. But it's a low-budget one with a couple of good performances. Okay. Check it out.
All right, okay.
And now for the Rex. Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Okay.
You haven't seen this one, have you?
I haven't seen this one. Should I?
No.
Okay.
It's in the Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it might be like a fun wreck, you know?
It's not that. No, it's not that. It's no, I was going to say Winnie the Pooh, but it's not. That wasn't fun. That was the problem, was it? Anyway, next episode.
Yeah.
So, glossed and sheened as ever, it's pretty desperate.
Right, okay.
Film. Martin Lawrence, whose character has a deathbed afterlife vision, after which he's endowed with insight, is very desperate. For the entire film, he's locked in a battle with his own face.
Right, okay.
Will Smith is going to have to do some work before it's possible to get over the slap, for me. The direction is over-caffeinated, though maybe caffeine isn't the substance at work.
Oh.
It's a Michael Bay film, not directed by Michael Bay. He does have a cameo, though.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, that's nice.
Is it?
No. Michael Bay is almost 60, right? We talked about this. He's almost 60, and you see him in this with his blonde surfer hair. Mm. And you reflect on his filmography, and an impression of a certain type of Peter Pan man begins to form.
Okay.
Right? So I did a little research on him too.
Yeah.
So he's never married, and he has no children. He's worth $500 million. He either owns or has owned 2 Camaros, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, an Escalade, a Range Rover, a Bentley, and a Gulfstream G550 jet.
No doubt props he's kept from the Transformers films.
Yes, some of which are from the these are the things that we know about Michael Bay.
Okay.
Okay, those are the facts of his life that we know.
Okay.
He's that seedy, gauche, slimy, tacky, empty, uber-wealthy, perpetual bachelor, sugar daddy type.
Right.
He's like Hugh Hefner without the class.
Okay.
Right? Because Hefner at least championed gay rights and civil rights in the 60s. Michael Bay has donated money to animal shelters, but he strikes me as being the kind of guy that would deeply mourn the death of a dog, but kick a woman in the stomach. You know what I mean?
On what possible grounds?
You look at him. Trust me, just look at the guy. You know, he's like, you know, he just has like model girlfriends that he just fucks young girls. I'm not talking about illegally, but you know, he fucks young girls.
Yeah, well,
they're gone. And,
yeah, he was like, he did a lot of work with Victoria's Secret, right?
Exactly.
Probably,
that's his personality.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I the stuff I just reeled off to you is in his personal life section on Wikipedia.
Right.
That he owns this. He's worth this much, but he's given to dog homes because he's that kind of psychopath that like sobs over a dog having cancer, but then if a woman like speaks out of line, he kicks her in the stomach. I'm not. He hasn't, just for libel.
Yeah, you're not saying he has, but you think he would.
I suspect he's the kind of guy that would.
Okay.
He just has that whiff about him, you know? That vague redolence that Robin Thicke's blurred lines is a manual or a hymn to him.
Right.
You know? Anyway, Johan Griffith is in the film for some reason. Not that it's beneath him, because he's done some shit. It's just that he's Welsh. So my antenna always goes up for stuff like that.
But Michael Bay, I know you said this isn't a Michael Bay directed film, but it's a Michael Bay film,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same way Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a Michael Bay film, but he didn't direct it. Michael Bay films do that all the time. They'll have John Turturro and Francis McDormand and John Malkovich. And...
This isn't that. Like, that's, as Mark Kim would say, bring in someone to do the acting.
Yeah.
No, not that. It's not that he's a great actor, because, Johan Griffith's in the Fantastic Four, you know, the 2005 version.
Yeah, but so was Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, I know that. That's what I'm saying.
So was Chris Evans. And he did all right as Captain America. He's good in Sunshine.
They're all fine in it. They're terrible films. What I'm saying is I'm not putting Griffith in the same camp as McDormand and Malkovich as like, you need a heavy-hitting actor in there. Right. What I'm saying is I kind of thought he had disappeared.
Okay.
Stopped. And then all of a sudden he's in Bad Boys. And again, the fact that he's Welsh is like, okay. Rhea Seehorn's in it for some reason, and that really is disheartening. Surely a film called Bad Boys for Life would be the last of the series, right? If the title of this one is a question as opposed to a statement, the latter, please.
Okay.
Anyway, it's more Bad Boys.
Okay.
Yeah, because Bad Boys for Life is the third one. Surely that would be the last one.
Bad Boys for Life.
You don't do Bad Boys for Life and then Bad Boys Ride or Die. So if you're asking me, die. Okay. Grimsburg, I can have a S now.
Yeah.
Season 1 of Grimsburg.
Yeah, it's grim, all right. Yeah.
It's a burgie.
I don't know. Obviously, bad shows are bad.
Yeah.
Shows that are bland, boring, or unoriginal can be worse in some cases. Just like, they're less enjoyable.
Nothing to say.
Yeah.
No comment. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I would argue that shows even worse than that is a show where the conversation around it is bland, boring, or unoriginal.
Yes.
There's nothing that I can say about Grimsburg that can't be said for any other adult animated comedy, bad adult animated comedy that's on TV at the moment, which is to say most of them.
You've absorbed a lot of those recently as well, haven't you?
Well, I want to see if there's a good one, Sam. I haven't found it yet.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying, like, you're the one to speak about this. Like, was it the second best?
Second best hospital in the galaxy, Grimsburg, Mr. Bircham.
The next review, presumably.
Yeah, that'll probably be the next one, because I think it's over. I don't know, they keep adding episodes.
No, I mean the review that's coming up after this Grimsburg. I presume that is also...
Oh, that's it, that's in the same camp as well. Like I've probably seen a few this year, and none of them
none are good.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's... Why that art style?
Why that art style? But also
it's that same art style every time, which doesn't... It's too rigid to animate properly.
Yeah. I think the TCA Awards... The nominations were announced at the Critics Awards, and in the animated category, they're all children's shows, basically. Like, I'd seen more than I thought I had. But the fact is, like, X-Men 97 is just doing much more actually mature things than any of these so-called mature shows.
Well, that's one of the major problems that we brought up before with, like, Agent Elvis and stuff like that, is these are the most immature shows on television, but they're targeted at adults.
Yes.
Because you can't talk about sex in a kids show. And you can't
masturbating and drugs and all that shit.
That's things that only adults do.
Yeah.
And then you've got X-Men talking about like depression and legacy and mortality and actually important shit. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Grimsburg, which I found particularly egregious, did you ever, like, at any point in your life, have you or like a group of friends that you've been in, have you ever done like that impression of like a detective
Yeah, of course.
That loves his family but is married to his job.
The noir.
Yeah, maybe he's at like a crime scene.
No, he's divorced. He loves his kids, but
he loves his kids, but he's married to his job. Yeah. And maybe he's at a crime scene and
murder and successful.
And you kind of like you're throwing in like these absurd details of the crime scene to make the whole situation funnier. Or maybe you put him you put him in like a situation which is very mundane, like going to the shops to buy some soup.
Right.
But he's still doing this like internal monologue.
Well, he's usually from New York, and he kind of talks like there's a poetry to the way he describes a crime scene.
Yeah.
Like, the crimson is, my soul is now crimson, with the pooling blood of mortality.
Yeah.
And, God, I seen some shit. And,
God, I'm so fucked up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. You've done that, right?
I just did it.
Yeah. Everyone's done that.
Yeah.
You haven't just seen Grimsburg before. You've literally done it.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Okay, so it's the kind of sophomoric university. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we did a show about like a talking dog that smokes marijuana? And then someone actually paid you to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because the people that were into that now run the fucking networks.
Yeah, but I don't understand why John Hamm's grizzled detective impression was so good that it had to be immortalized in animation over everyone else's.
Didn't even know it was him.
Yeah.
Is there anything he will not say yes to? Serious, like
I thought John Hamm was good.
No, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
Like, in Mad Men, he's very good, and he's perfectly fine in Fargo. Obviously, we talked about our problems with that.
Yeah.
But it's like Mad Men's the kind of show that you do it, and you should have so many opportunities that you can be selective, and you just pick the really good things.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's like he's committed to proving that he's funny.
Right.
After Mad Men, right? When he was in Mad Men, he was also guest starring in 30 Rock and Bridesmaids to show, because he had range, right? Like, I'm not Don Draper. I can take myself less seriously. I can kind of parody my all-American ruggedness sort of thing. But it's like he just does shitty comedy after shitty comedy now, and it just seems like he says yes to it all. Like, dude, like, I think I've spoken about it on podcast before. Like, I read this article just after Mad Men ended a couple of years, like, how hasn't John Hamm become Cary Grant?
Yeah.
Like, he has Mad Men. He's like the definitive, he's like a sex symbol, but like a throwback, and I don't know, it's just such a shame.
Yeah. Gag reflex humor, bizarre, like, jerky tonal shifts because they can't pace an episode properly, stilted animation, ugly character designs. It's a modern day adult animated comedy. I don't understand why this one in particular got made. I don't understand why they commissioned the second season before the pilot even aired.
Oh dear.
And I don't understand how they didn't even need to air the pilot. They just commissioned it straight to series.
Okay.
But below that information in the wiki article, they've got the viewing figures for the season. And I think the pilot episode had 2.5 million people watch it, and the finale had 300,000. So maybe it's not going to go past its second season.
What's it on?
I don't even know. Fox, maybe.
Yeah, well, Fox is like the home of adult comedy, other than like Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Well, say adult comedy, adult animated comedy. Like, Fox is on Sunday nights, it was like Family Guy, The Simpsons, Futurama. Like, they do all those shows. They're pretty much the only network now that's producing animation, as in network.
Okay.
Obviously, you've got like Cartoon Network and
Adult
Netflix
Swim.
and Adult Swim. Yeah, but Fox is like the home of what are the other ones they do? Housebroken, is that one, or Unbroken, something like that? What's the one with Nick Offerman in the North? I think they do that one as well.
Okay.
You know the one I'm talking about, right? It's like a Canadian sort of log cabin-y
possibly,
kind of thing.
yeah.
There's Bob's Burgers, I think, is Fox.
Oh, okay. So they do King of the Hill?
Archer was Fox.
Archer.
King of the Hill, I'm not sure. But they produce a lot of adult animations, so to speak. Yeah, so this is them as well, is it?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. Give it a miss.
Give it a miss, yeah. Okay. Well, Crapopolis Season 1.
Oh, it's crap, all right.
Okay.
Well, no, I can't say that because I watched the finale just before I came here, and the show literally ends with someone being interviewed. I'll explain it. Like a journalist interviewing someone, and they're saying like, "Oh, the Crapopolis," and they're like, "Well, that's a bit of a. Can we change the name? Why do you want to change the name? Well, do I have to say it? Go on, say it. Well, crap is literally in the name. Oh, so as a journalist, you're just going to go Crapopolis and call it a day. You think you're going to be proud of that, are you?
Wow.
Yeah.
At the end of the season.
At the end of the season. So I can't. So they've done it, Sam. They've made it impossible for me to criticize the show. Crapopolis is actually great.
All right. Yeah. What's the thing in Scott Pilgrim? I hear the first album's better than the first album. Is that what he says?
Right.
Remember
I remember it.
Is it that one? Because there's two different ones, isn't there? One is like, oh, the comic book's better than the movie, or something like that.
Yeah.
As like the first criticism.
Yeah.
But I think later he just says, "Oh, I really prefer their first album to their first album."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something like ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, isn't it? But obviously they're taking the mick in Scott Pilgrim. But again, it's just so juvenile. Crapopolis, Grimsburg. Grimsburg is like a slight echelon above Crapopolis, but still. It's like, who wrote this? Are they 12 years old? Okay, but go on, Crapopolis.
Okay.
What is it? Crapopolis with a K, right?
Crapopolis with a K, yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, exactly. Bad shows are bad, right? Shows that are...
Don't want me to just splice in the first
I was going to say, do you want me to just repeat the review? Well, this is the annoying thing. Yeah, it's basically, the idea is that it's set in ancient Greece, and it's sort of like a modern-day family sitcom, kind of at the birth of civilization.
Yeah.
So
it's the Flintstones.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, look at this episode is about them introducing this facet of modern day society. Yeah. Look how ridiculous it seems to people that aren't familiar with civilization.
It's like, like the Flintstones did for Stone Age, or like plebs.
Yeah,
did for ancient Rome.
Yeah, exactly. So this episode, I'm going to introduce the concept of money. Well, that's a ridiculous concept. It'll never catch on.
Right. Yeah,
that's the first.
What's wrong with a rock? What's another Stuart Lee thing is when he's doing his whole immigration bit, and he's like, "What's wrong with just worshipping a tree?" But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So that's like the first 22 episodes of Crapopolis, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a 23 episode season. 23rd episode I watched before I came here. And it's not like a good episode.
Right.
But it's exactly the kind of high concept episode that Community frequently trafficked in.
Okay.
And that Dan Harmon in particular seems to be fairly good at mining material from.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The concept is, Crapopolis is...
Is this Dan Harmon?
This is Dan Harmon.
It is, okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's set in ancient Greece, but this episode switches between ancient Greece and modern day.
It's like that dinosaur thing, the show that we talked about before.
Oh, yeah, but that was one episode. Primal, that was.
Yeah.
Primal, that was one episode.
Yeah.
Everything's in the Stone Age or, like, caveman times. And then there's one episode that's, like, in the 1900s for some reason.
80, like Darwin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But no, this episode, there's you've got the main character that's played by Richard Ayoade, who's the king of Crapopolis. And then you've got an archaeologist in the modern day who gets trapped in a cave-in. And both of them have a magic shell that allows them to talk to each other across those thousands of years. And in order to... Basically, they both have an agenda. She wants to get out of the cave, and he wants Crapopolis to be remembered by history. So they are communicating with each other and basically changing each other's timelines.
It's like a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, and it's like, where the fuck did this come from?
Right.
Because I've had to sit through 22 episodes.
Is it good, though?
It's all right.
It's fine.
If it was like in the first 2 or 3 episodes, I'd go, oh, this is a promising season.
Okay.
But it's the 23rd episode.
Right. And it's probably going to reset after that, right?
They've wrapped it all up now, so it's not going to carry on going forward. But I was just thinking, because the Rick and Morty pilot is not that great.
No.
The much greater episodes came after that. Community had a little bit of a ramp up. I think the first season of Parks and Rec was pretty dire as well, wasn't it? The Office as well. They're not Dan Harmon things, but they're kind of... They came about around the same time.
There's a lot of, especially American comedies, where the first seasons aren't very good, and they figured out what was good about it.
Yeah. So I was thinking, all right, am I being unfair to Crapopolis here? But, by this point, Community, they've done the chicken finger episode, they've done the paintball episodes.
The first season Community is good. It's not quite the peaks of, 2 and 3.
No.
But it's still... It doesn't stand out as being different, fundamentally different.
I think Rick and Morty had kind of hit its stride long before the 23rd episode as well. Well, in
this day and age, you're not really allowed that anymore. The whole this first season's not very good, then it got great.
Yeah.
Unless a lot of people watch it. That doesn't really happen anymore. It's very rare. Something like Foundation, that happened too. That's still on the air.
Yeah.
And Outer Range recently, its second season was a lot more praised than the first.
Okay.
But usually you have to be great out the gate now. Yeah,
and I'm assuming that it's because of Dan Harmon that it was able to stay, because I think this has been renewed for season 2 and 3.
Okay. That's a lot more common as well.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it's because of Dan Harmon and his reputation.
Yeah.
But for the most of this, I watched it and I was like, I'm just hoping that he's using this as a means of exercising all of his bad writing before he gets around to the Community film. But the fact that there's now 2 more seasons to come suggests that, oh no, he's treating this as like a proper project.
Unless he just steps away as, he's kind of the showrunner, but he's not, like Seth MacFarlane, he's not really writing it, he's overseeing it. But,
yeah.
He's going to have to. There's too many different things to... I know he's prolific, but it's hard to do all those things, to write Rick and Morty and this. And I think he's got another show as well, another animated show.
Yeah.
What's the one? Blue Aliens.
That could describe 20 shows.
Yeah, they're like round-headed blue aliens living in suburbia. Strange planet.
Maybe. I have no idea.
It's something like that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that 23rd episode annoyed me because if there'd been more episodes like that, then it would have been a recommendation.
Right.
As it stands, all I can really say about it is I've seen Matt Berry be horny in better shows. I've seen Richard Ayoade be pathetic in better shows. I've seen Dan Harmon write badly in better shows.
Right.
It's like, if you want, watch that 23rd episode. It's the best thing that's in Crapopolis.
Okay.
So if you like it, you're more than welcome to try the rest of it, but it won't be as good as that episode.
Yeah, you're not getting me anymore.
No.
With Matt Berry and Richard Ayoade. Time for that has passed.
Yeah.
They're in it to bring us to it.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Well, it worked, because look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
I stuck around.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, we talked about Matt Berry being overused, but they brought in to give it like a cachet, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some trends that are turning, which is nice. I mean, we've talked before about the thing.
But I don't want Matt Berry to be...
No, I'm not. No, I don't mean that. I mean people not being fooled by it.
Yeah.
So we talk about the Instagram trend that I like, which is very beautiful women, and then the whole men are kind of saying, "Stay on the mission, lads." And if someone compliments them, they go, "He's been lost to us." That sort of thing. But one of the things I like that I've seen a lot is videos of very attractive women like lip syncing or just doing something but looking hot. And then the trend is men commenting, "OF, OnlyFans, OF detected, opinion rejected."
Oh, okay.
So like, if we see you've got OnlyFans, no.
Okay.
You're not valid. And I like that, because the amount of women that have OnlyFans. But it's nice to see these things turn around, you know? But no, I don't want Matt Berry and Richard Ayoade to mean the mark of death on a thing. I just want them to not be cynically used to, animated shows, so that's assuming a wide audience. Like, we need to get in like the ABC ones. The people that like Garth Marenghi.
Yeah.
Gotta bring those in. No, it will not work anymore.
No.
Fuck you. Is that it for Crapopolis?
Yeah.
Okay. The Strangers Chapter 1.
This is you. I didn't waste my time on this.
Okay. It's mercifully short. I can say that.
Oh, great. Okay.
It begins with text over black that informs us that there are 1.4 million violent crimes in the US every year. 7 since you've been watching this film. So it's trying to pretend that it has a social conscience. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Before seeing anything else, it feels like a justification for what's coming.
Right.
We are then told this is the story of one of the most brutal. Well, if only. It's utterly toothless, this film. That kind of warning would imply some upsetting stuff that never comes to pass unless you've never seen another film.
Okay.
It's not scary. There is some gore, but not much. If you're going to serve me a horror film without substance, I at least want one with spatter and grue.
Okay.
It just seems like the filmmakers watched every horror film ever made and went, yeah, we'll have one of those. Or equally, have never seen a horror film and think that they're inventing the genre.
Right.
If you told me this was created with AI, I would genuinely believe you.
Okay.
If this was a cabin in the woods slasher from the 1960s, it might be academically interesting as a prototype. This isn't that. The characters aren't really characters. It's not about anything. It's totally pointless. And not in a grim, nihilistic way, just inconsequential. Most violent crimes don't play out like this, of course, but I dare say the brutality, quote-unquote, of what transpires wouldn't crack the top 5% in terms of violence in the real world. It's bizarrely tame. This is what happens in the film, okay? A couple are driving through Oregon. Their car breaks down in a podunk town. They stay in a nearby cabin. They're stalked by 3 masked strangers. They're both caught, tied to chairs, and stabbed once each in the stomach. Then we see the woman in hospital having survived. Then the text, to be continued.
Okay.
That's what happens in the film.
Okay.
Chapter 1.
Yeah.
There's not enough material here for a contents page. Yeah, that's the film. I mean, there's them trying to get away and everything, but in terms of what actually happens, they go to a cabin, people turn up, they try and avoid them, then they're caught and they're stabbed, and the film ends.
Right, okay. Well, I was going to bring up the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that's a film that people often bring up as, like, it's a horror film with no gore.
Yeah.
Like, it's a horror film where nothing happens, really, but it's very clearly a horror film. It's a horrific experience.
Yeah.
This is not going for that, is it?
No, like I said, it's because there is gore. It's not like they were trying to skirt that or be clever around it. The reason Texas Chainsaw doesn't have gore is because it's trying to create that horror and dread without being explicit.
Yeah.
No, this isn't trying to do that. It's a cabin in the woods slasher movie. But there's one kind of over-the-top violent moment where he shotguns a guy in the face, and then you see the face after it's been shot.
Okay.
But it's very brief, and that's it. It's not unsettling. It's not uncanny. If you're not going to give me any of those, or not clever, if you give me none of that, it has to be exploding heads and guts coming out, and because that's all that's left with a horror film.
Yeah.
And it's not doing that. So yeah, it's just kind of a really tame version of the film it's trying to be.
I know that like Blumhouse have kind of existed for a while, and so we've always kind of had trashy commercial horror films that exist for you to go boo at you.
Like when you say trashy commercial horror, I think Saw, the Saw.
Oh well, certainly that.
Yeah.
But then that kind of evolved into
that's more gore oriented than it boo oriented.
Yeah, and then we went from gore orientated to boo orientated.
Yeah.
But I thought horror was supposed to be getting better. There was kind of like a few years where we're getting like good horror films in a row, like The Babadook and It Follows,
not mainstream
and Hereditary.
Horror.
Admittedly, not mainstream horror, but like they kind of rose to the surface. People talked about It Follows and
film fans, yes, horror fans to some degree, but we've talked about there are people, usually young women, that say they like horror that don't. They like
boo horror.
They like true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
They like hearing about how serial killers raped and killed their victims. And they like Insidious and The Conjuring and all those films. They don't like It Follows. They don't like Hereditary. Like, the people I know that fit that description find those films funny.
Okay.
Just because it's like, I don't know, either they're too tame or they're too weird. I don't know. But they kind of laugh at those things.
Yeah.
They're not horror, like, to me, they're not horror fans. Like, I think it's snobby to say, oh, you're not a fan of horror. But to me, it's like, no, a horror fan means you're either a gore hound, you just love fucking blood and guts on screen, which is fine, because as has been pointed out, horror is not sadistic, it's masochistic. Sometimes horror is sadistic. I saw a film recently that matched that description. I can't remember what it was, but I definitely told you about it. Where it felt like, oh, they raveled in it. It wasn't...
It was a remake of something.
It was a remake of Last House on the Left.
Right.
Because I watched the original, which is a trashy, video nasty. But it does have a philosophy behind it. It's just kind of poorly... They couldn't execute it because it was so low budget.
Yeah.
And such a nothing film, really. But when she's being raped in that and everything, it's horrible. And there's no sense that I'm meant to sympathise with the people doing it or enjoy what they're doing. It's not titillating. Whereas The Last House on the Left, in the remake, the Michael Bay produced 2009 remake, I think he produced it. He did a bunch of those, didn't he? What's that company called?
Platinum Dunes?
Platinum Dunes.
Yeah.
Where the parents are avenging the murdered daughter. Well, not actually murdered in that version. It's weirdly tamer and it's strange. And Aaron Paul plays one of the...
Yeah, he showed me that scene, yeah.
And they kill him. And you're clearly meant to like what they're doing. They get off on what they're doing.
Okay.
Revenge porn. And films like that, and I Spit on Your Grave, which is another one I saw recently. They're grungy, and people at the time, like Roger Ebert, called it the worst film of the 80s and the worst film of that year and everything. But there is a genuine... there's an ongoing debate about this. But they are feminist films. There's a strand of feminism in that a woman will not be beaten down. It's very divided. There are some people that say that that's just an excuse for inflicting all this violence on women and then justifying it by going, oh yeah, but then look how they rise up again.
Okay.
And then other women that would say, no, it's genuinely feminist, that this woman takes revenge on the people that did it to her. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Back when feminism had some interesting points to make. But yeah, like The Last House on the Left, the remake, you got the sense there was meant to be a visceral thrill in what they were doing to that guy. As horrible, like it was, everything he did was being set up to justify the horror that was done to him. And as horrible as that is, and as sadistic as that is, and as empty in that Michael Bay way as that is, if you're into gore, that's at least something. When you tune into The Strangers Chapter 1 and it says, this is one of the most brutal... It's not based on a true story. This is one of the most brutal cases, like, oh, okay, good, I'm in for the void. Strap in for the nihilistic void. And you don't get it.
Right.
And that's a shame.
Okay. I wanted my nihilism.
Well, if you're watching a horror film, yeah, it should be, like, good horror films make you feel fucking... Not empty. It's hard to... There's a distinction between a film making you feel like looking the void in the face and the film itself being empty.
Okay.
Those Michael Bay horrors are empty films. You leave thinking like, I have looked into the soul of the abyss.
Right.
You know, Kemo talks about this all the time. And leaving something going, God, I just looked into the abyss. They're two very different things.
Okay.
You don't want the abyss to be the filmmaker's heart.
Yeah.
You want the abyss to be the scenario. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an abyss.
Yeah.
But it's a brilliant film that I'm going to rewatch soon, actually. Yeah, anyway, that's The Strangers Chapter 1.
Okay.
And Final Rack is one of yours.
Tires. Speaking of looking into an abyss,
Yes.
I'm keeping my eye on Shane Gillis. I don't know if I like him yet. Like I think positively of him, but I don't know if I call myself a fan of his yet.
Okay.
I enjoyed Beautiful Dogs, the stand-up that he did recently.
I'm very ambivalent about him.
I know you are.
Yeah, like, because there are moments in that I found really funny.
Yeah.
In Beautiful Dogs. And I like the crowd he's in.
Yeah, and comedians that I like and respect, like Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle, have spoken very highly of him.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of what they're saying about him in the way he conducts himself and in his material.
And I have a certain respect. He went back on SNL after he was sacked by them.
Yeah.
And did a monologue that was pretty good. Take Aim At on SNL. But again, it was like, and I enjoyed that, but the problem is, people weren't laughing. He was commenting on it, and he was clearly getting quite awkward about it. Well, you got to be Norm Macdonald if you're going to do
but that's one of the things I kind of like about him, is that he seems quite nervous.
Okay.
Despite the fact that he's this kind of bro-y dude.
Yeah.
Talking about, like, bro-y shit. Like, he's in that kind of, like, he's on all those podcasts with all those, like, bro comedians. I know he's not quite a Joe Rogan, although he's been on Joe Rogan.
But I don't think of Joe Rogan as a bro in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is that community, but he's different than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
Say what I mean, Sam. Say what I actually meant.
Well, I think there's the community of podcasters. It's Joe Rogan, it's Tom Segura, it's Theo Von, like Bobby Lee. They're all friends, and they kind of do each other's podcasts, and they're all kind of anti-woke. Like, they're not buying into liberal bullshit. They're into, like, hallucinogenic drugs and extreme sports and violent animal videos, products of the internet.
They're just fucking couple of guys, you know?
Couple of guys, like libertarian kind of dudes.
Yeah.
They're into MMA, but also like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird little subculture thing.
Yeah.
Say subculture, I mean, Joe Rogan's the biggest fucking podcast in the world. But yeah, that community of guys. But Shane Gillis is more bro-y than a lot of them.
Yeah. But he also does seem to be, he has
a timidity to him.
Yeah, which I kind of appreciate. That's the reason I kind of started watching more of his stuff. It's like, he's not coming across as obnoxious to me.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, is I do sometimes find him obnoxious.
Okay. But I think the timidity kind of undercuts that.
He's a complex fellow.
Yeah.
Let's say. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, we'll keep an eye on him, see where he goes.
Yeah.
If that stand-up is anything to go by, hopefully we got some good stuff to look forward to. Tires was not a good thing.
Seldom is.
Yeah.
Good stand-up usually can only indicate more good stand-up. It doesn't indicate good filmmaker or good TV dude.
The thing that really surprised me about Tires is I think I learned that this is something that he's kind of been wanting to do for a while, or he's kind of touched on this before, because he's done sketches on YouTube and stuff, and he's kind of touched on this idea before.
I basically know nothing about it, or him or his past or anything like that, other than his involvement with SNL. But yeah, when the trailer came out for the Netflix series, all the comments were like, oh, I'm so glad he's finally getting to do this.
Yeah.
So it's obviously been in the ether for a while.
Yeah, so this is clearly like a sort of passion project for him. You could have easily convinced me that this is something that he made out of spite.
Fought towards,
well, like, he was told by Netflix, you have to make a show.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, I'll make a show, all right.
Right.
Because
it's a deliberately shitty show.
Yeah, it's just like, so what's it about, Shane? Oh, it's just a couple of guys like in the workplace.
It's like adult animated comedy.
Yeah. All right. What happens in this workplace?
Talking stuff.
Fucking tires, dude.
They shoot the shit.
Yeah.
With a couple of beers.
Yeah. Okay, Shane, you want to say anything else? Nah. Cool. All right. 6 episodes.
It's $5 million.
It's $5 million. Yeah, I don't know. It's
it's big nothing. It seemed like a big nothing. The clip that was doing the rounds that was meant to really sell the show. This is the clip you've chosen.
Yeah. Well, it feels like Shane Gillis is kind of... He's definitely cast himself as like what he hopes is going to be the breakout character. Because it's kind of just him. Like, it's him... Like, I think there's like a cold open where he's watching like yoga videos, or like a guy doing yoga therapy on a girl or something. And his boss comes in and is like, you can't watch that here. It's borderline pornographic. He's like, but it's not porn. It's basically porn, but it's not.
Okay.
And it's just them watching this woman.
He's a likable guy.
This guy like fondling this woman.
Right.
As like customers are coming in and they're like, no, we're watching the,
Right.
Yeah, it's that kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he write it?
I don't know if he wrote it.
Okay.
I think he might have co-wrote it with
the pilot or something.
Yeah.
Or co-wrote the whole thing. Is it a vanity project? Is he ever the butt of the joke? Or is he designed to be the cool character snarkily commenting on other people?
Well, he's mostly that.
Okay.
I don't remember him being the butt of the joke, but there are moments where he learns his lesson.
Okay.
And there are moments where he does, like, objectively the right thing, even though it doesn't suit his needs.
Right.
I don't recommend it. I don't really remember it. And that's the thing. I watched it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll just have to stick with his stand-up for now. Hopefully he'll work on that. And Tyres will just kind of sweep that under the rug and kind of move on from that.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I was hoping for a better review, but I really don't know what to say about it.
It's without having seen it, it seems like the kind of show that you'd have nothing to say about. Don't know if it has now. It didn't have a Wikipedia article last time I looked.
Okay.
It probably does now. But yeah, it's like, what's this? But if a Netflix show doesn't have a Wikipedia article, it usually means it's a South African show.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. So, reviews?
Let's do it.
Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is... I think it's a review. I have some things to say. We both watched it. It's a Netflix miniseries. What's it about?
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you. Okay, so the premise as I understood it when I started to watch the show...
Ooh, implied criticism.
was that it was a show... Benedict Cumberbatch was a father who... He was a puppeteer. He worked on this, like, Muppet-style kids show. Sesame Street sort of affair. And his kid goes missing, presumably kidnapped. And around that time, he starts seeing this puppet, which we find out in the show is a puppet that his kid designed as a sort of like, oh, look, Dad, he can be on the show.
Yeah, and it's a puppet. It's not like, it's not a glove. It's not a hand puppet.
No, it's a full body puppet.
It's a big body,
it's a big, like, Yeti-looking thing.
Yeah.
And Benedict Cumberbatch starts hallucinating that puppet, who's kind of there to sort of help him on his quest to find his son again.
He's kind of his subconscious, kind of critiquing him. And,
kind of teaching him a lesson, making him a better person. And that's maybe like 20% of the show?
Be generous and say 30.
Okay, 30% of the show.
Yeah.
It's not, as I understood it to be, the show.
No.
Because if you're going to go in watching a show about Benedict Cumberbatch talking to a puppet, you're going to be disappointed.
Well, it's a film that other stuff has been added to.
Yeah.
That's what the show is, really, isn't it? Yeah, so that's that's one, so not even half, but that's story A, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about story B?
Yeah, so obviously the kid's gone missing, so the police are investigating it. And this black officer, because it's set in the 70s, right? 70s New York.
I believe it's the 80s.
Oh, 80s New York. So it's back when New York was that kind of... It was a lot rougher. It was a lot more Taxi Driver. It was a lot more...
The Taxi Driver is the good... It's Taxi Driver.
Yeah, it's Taxi Driver, yeah. There's homeless people everywhere, and there's smoke, and there's rubbish, and there's...
Sanitation strikes, and...
Yeah, and racism, and homophobia, and all of those, like, horrible things.
All those 80s New York things.
Yeah, all those 80s New York things that only existed then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's searching for the kid. But he also has a bit of an obsession with this gay club.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of... He's trying to, like...
He's a fan.
He's trying to put the squeeze on the guy that runs the club because he thinks that...
Don't squeeze too hard.
No. Do you want to preface it, Sam?
Look, you were doing all the pride shit earlier. I'm now trying to bring it full circle.
Well, I was building up to the pride shit.
Oh, go on, then. Go on.
Yeah, he's trying to interrogate the guy that runs the place.
He's trying to finger the... No, he's...
Because that guy was previously involved in, like, child trafficking, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, you've got something to do with this. But yeah, he's also secretly gay. And then it turns out that another character is secretly gay. And then it turns out another character is secretly gay. I think everyone's secretly gay in this show, Sam.
There's a lot of gay.
There's a lot of gay.
Yeah.
Considering that this was supposed to be a show about a man hallucinating a puppet trying to find his son, there's a lot of racism and there's a lot of gay.
Yeah, that's story B, really.
Yeah, racism and gay.
Racism and gay. Gaysism and story.
Ray.
Yeah, gaysism and Ray. And the first story is what the show is advertised as.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much, it's freebasing the grim 80s New York aesthetic, isn't it? It's like, in its veins, it's injecting it into its veins.
Yeah.
By all accounts, it was grim. 80s New York was grim. But it feels like movie New York. I don't mean movie New York in the way that something like New Year's Day is. I mean, it feels like Taxi Driver, Joker, New York. Coke and graffiti and stoops and dives and corruption and fucking sanitation executives.
Yeah.
It's hard to capture the New York of this era and milieu because they tend to feel like hollow clones of Taxi Driver, you know, or Serpico and that kind of era. And Most Violent Year was the rare film that got it right. Have you seen that?
No.
So that's kind of doing that thing, but it's doing its own version of it. In tandem with that phoniness, it feels like it was written by an outsider. I don't know if you got that impression.
What do you mean by outsider?
A non-New Yorker.
Oh, okay. All right.
And a non-American, actually. It's not the characters are all spouting New York cliches, but there is a distance. So, you know the hoodlum dialogue in...
Hoodlum?
Hoodlum, yes. In the Dark Knight trilogy. It's very, like, 30 Chicago mobster serial villain thing.
Okay.
But I would say in that franchise, it's arguably self-conscious. That's what they're going for. They try to make him sound like Chicago, you know. If you remove that comic book architecture, you'd be left with something like Eric. A lot of fucking fags, all that kind of thing.
Right.
It's not over the top, but it does sound like someone evoking dialogue rather than capturing dialogue.
Okay.
Inventing it rather than like... It's not something you overhear. It's something that's been completely generated, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Cumberbatch delivers a very awardsy performance. At times, it's a bit desperate.
Yeah. He sounded like... It was weird. There were times where he sounded like Gregory House to me.
Interesting.
Like, it evoked a similar kind of... Because obviously they're very different characters.
Yeah.
The character who plays in this and Gregory House. And obviously Hugh Laurie is not doing the same accent.
He's doing standardised RP American.
Yeah.
To British here.
Whereas Cumberbatch, it feels like he's trying to do...
He's trying to do New York.
He's trying to do New York. I don't think he's capturing it, though.
Well, Cumberbatch, he is so fiercely British.
Yeah.
That when he's doing... And, you know, he's done such... I don't know, iconic is probably too strong a word. But he's played Sherlock Holmes, The Imitation Game, Smaug even. So when you see him in, like, Black Mass, where he's playing a Boston... not the mayor, but, you know, Boston politician.
Yeah.
He's, I'm Johnny Depp's brother. No, you're Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very hard accent and face to change.
Yes.
And so, yeah, when he's doing New York, it's like, British actor doing New York. And I suppose that is a microcosm of what I felt about the show, which is it's an outsider doing New York.
Okay.
Yeah, so Gabby Hoffman, if there was an MVP, it was her. Mostly because I'm not usually a fan of hers.
She the wife?
She's the wife.
Okay.
But I thought she did a good job in this. The monster adds basically nothing, the puppet.
Well, that was what was annoying about the puppet. Not only was he barely a feature,
Yeah.
but it felt like... Because what was he supposed to be? Like a manifestation of his guilt,
Yes.
right?
Someone, because there's a lot of him alone kind of going into the dark heart of the city to try and find his son himself. And he needs a scene partner.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, but Eric doesn't add anything to those scenes. He just says the subtext.
He supplements, he verbalizes the subtext.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's not quite gag reflex, but it kind of you end up in the same place where you go...
You're dumb. Your audience is dumb.
Yeah. So, Cumberbatch experiences something that makes him realises that he's a bad father. And Eric will just go, you're a bad father.
Yeah, exactly.
And as an audience member, I'm left going, okay, cool. What am I supposed to bring to this scene?
Yeah, I feel like it's also the kind of thing, because he does the voice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're meant to kind of go, oh my god, did you know Cumberbatch also does the voice? That's such it's so interesting psychologically. You can see the artist's intent that it's actually him. It's like, yeah. Again, it feels, in a way, like Grimsburg or Crapopolis, that you come up with this in uni. Oh, it's a guy and he starts seeing a puppet. Like, it's stuff in uni is always to do with hallucinations or the afterlife or drugs or something like that.
But it's also strange because it's the only component of the show that is heightened in any way. Everything else is pretty grounded.
Yeah, well, yeah, the juxtaposition.
But it's not a juxtaposition because Eric is so barely in it.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah.
And so it just ends up being this weird diversion.
Especially considering he only exists for one character, right? So you have this whole other storyline that's just completely going for...
Yeah, because they do the thing where, like, Cumberbatch will be in a scene where he's talking to another character and Eric will pipe up and Cumberbatch will turn to nothing and go, shut up!
Yeah, I hate that.
And a character will look at him and go, oh, what, are you alright, Cumberbatch? You seem a bit off.
Yeah, it's a surreal kind of, you know, not even GCSE, like, you know, it's year 8 surreal, the fact that Eric is in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's not treated as... It's treated as a surreal component, right? So, like, when he starts seeing him...
Yeah.
He's surprised by it and he's disturbed by it. It's not like, oh, that's just part of the show, accept it.
Yeah.
The psychology of the show. So I think whenever I see these things where people are hallucinating or they hear anything or whatever, if you knew it to be hallucination, as he obviously knows that it is, you would really try and hide the fact that you're seeing it when you're with other people. So you go, shut up! It's like, oh, it's so overpowering, they lose control. That's the cliche, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, unless he was like in your face screaming at you, you would maintain your composure because you'd be so worried that you're losing your mind. You don't want to look sane in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But that's a nitpick, I suppose. I know, like, dramatic license, that happens all the time. If you're going to actually use the killing moon, why use a cover?
Yeah, and they barely used that as well.
There's a lot of that, though. A lot of 80s, like, they use The Forest by The Cure and a lot of, like, you know, sinister, gloomier 80s songs.
That kind of reminded me of the Continental, that John Wick TV show,
Yeah.
where it's just, right, needle drop, needle drop, needle drop.
Yeah.
Let's set the tone. We're setting this during a period of time. We're trying to capture a specific tone. Play all of the songs that fit that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The mayor is always involved.
Right.
Here and in, as evidenced here and in Bad Boys.
Okay.
Mayor's always got something to do with it. Yeah, so race needn't have been a factor in the show. I'm aware that strips the show of maybe, well, we said like 2/3, maybe half of its content. But that's the problem. It's trying to do too much. The show's trying to do too much. This is a film padded out, trying to deal with homelessness and institutional racism and other racisms and homophobia and mental health. All told, there are 2 stories. I didn't really care about either one, but I really didn't care about story B.
Yeah.
Because it felt like a distraction a lot of the time. It feels like that was the stuff that was added to make it a show rather than a film. And it's just a vessel to carry a topical load that's way too unwieldy. It's the issues storyline. With story A, you're essentially dealing with parenthood, mental health, and drugs. That's enough to tide you over.
For 6 episodes.
For 6 episodes. Also, the mother in story B, so there's a black mother whose child has also gone missing months ago. And by now she's jaded and just kind of knows nothing's going to be done about it. She's the righteous, unheard voice of the downtrodden minority, right? She reminded me of that scene in The Leftovers where Nora and Erica, who've both lost children, they have a deeply personal, passive-aggressive grief-off.
Right.
My pain's worse than yours. Every scene she was in, right? Of course the situation's horrible, but all she does when she's with Gabby Hoffman, whose child has just gone missing, is point out how badly she has it in comparison to her.
Right.
So I was like, oh God, you think you've got it rough? I'm black as well. Poof. You know, like, that's basically all she does. And like, yeah, I get it, but fucking shut up. Jesus Christ. As the show progressed, and as you've alluded to, I was put in mind of R.E.M. Everybody's gay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, because the show went on.
Yeah.
The ending is some dumb bullshit.
Okay.
For one thing, contrived. For another, Disney plus a Robin Williams film, which is Aladdin. Aladdin is bad again. Yeah, right. So at the end of the film, and there you go, I called it a film. At the end of the show, they find the kid. The kid's hiding because he doesn't like his dad, because he's scared, he thinks his dad hates him or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't like the kid.
I didn't care about the kid.
I certainly didn't like the kid after that.
Yeah, I just didn't care about the kid at all. He kind of hides out with this homeless guy, basically. And then Benedict Cumberbatch kind of sabotages a rally for something against homelessness, I think.
Yeah, they've evicted all of the homeless people from the sewers into the streets.
Yeah.
And that has prompted a protest in the park. And Benedict Cumberbatch seizes the opportunity to actually build the Eric puppet and wear it in front of all of the cameras and sort of appeal to his son to come home. And his son sees that on TV. And
somehow.
They run home and they have this like heartfelt reunion. Yeah. And not once do they punish the son for running away putting them through hell.
Well, I mean, you're just so relieved, aren't you? Like, I can excuse that. They're relieved and that's the end of the show or whatever. It's more the fact that the kid had to see it on TV. Like, where would the kid? The kid would have to be
in the sewers for most of the show.
The kid would have to be where he is at that point. The only place he could be, which is he's in a cafe.
Yeah.
Like, scrounging food.
Yeah.
And then he sees it on the TV. He happens to see it on the TV.
Yeah.
And then basically they have a thing where they always race home. So Cumberbatch says, "I'll race you home," and then the kid actually sees it. Yeah, contrived bullshit. For something so miserable, I was almost certain of a happy ending. The show is so grim. It's like, there's no way this ends grimly.
Yeah.
You could tell in its DNA, it's not going to be Requiem for a Dream.
Well, there's a moment, I think it's at the end of episode 5. Yeah, you find out over the course of like a couple of episodes that he's kind of in the sewer with a homeless guy that is protecting him.
Yeah, a black homeless guy.
A black homeless guy that's protecting him. Yeah, it was weird because the show never reveals it. It just starts showing it to you at some point as if it's already revealed it.
I guess when it's initially revealed, aren't you supposed to think that he's kidnapped the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then gradually it kind of reveals that...
Yeah, it turns out he followed him down there and he's actually protecting him.
He's actually protecting him. Yeah.
Yeah, but so he... Through various circumstances, he can't take the kid back up to the surface to be reunited with his mother. So he tasks that to a homeless woman that he knows.
Who wants to sell him to some kiddie fiddlers.
Who wants to sell him to a kiddie fiddler that works at the gay club that the detective... This intricate little web they've woven for themselves. And as they're ascending through the sewers, they slip off the ladder and they fall into the raging waters below. Mm-hmm. This kills the woman. Yeah. Doesn't kill the child.
No.
And I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, kill the child.
Yeah, make it, go dark.
Yeah, because, at that point, Benedict Cumberbatch has managed to trace his son to the sewers. Mm-hmm. But he convinces himself to take heroin when he's down there. Mm-hmm. So he's within close proximity of his son for quite a while, but has no idea.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay. So the tragedy of this is going to be his son was fine all along.
Yeah.
And if Cumberbatch hadn't succumbed to his vices, he would have saved him.
Right.
But the kid has now died, and no one is ever going to know that he was fine.
Yes.
And the show can now do something interesting with that. Mm-hmm. No, the son just survives, and it's just a happy ending.
In line with the fact that it's appropriating New York in that way, that it's not from a genuine New Yorker, and it feels like it's a British writer trying to do American. The darkness in the show, it feels like an affectation.
Okay.
The mind that it's coming from is not built for, it's not a dark mind. Abby Morgan, who wrote The Hour, which is like a Mad Men sort of, but British Mad Men about newsreaders. Has written something like Shame, has done some, but you can tell the darkness in the show is not in her soul.
Yeah.
Like you can with Paul Schrader or someone.
Yeah.
It's a dark world and I'm writing about it, but it's not in me. And so you knew it wasn't going to end grimly. As dark as the show is trying to be, it's going to have a happy ending because it's not from a dark heart in that way. It's not from a dark mind. In the way that First Reformed would end, or Taxi Driver, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it would have been interesting if the kid had just died. I mean, it would have been pointless, but the show's pretty pointless anyway. You can tolerate Requiem for a Dream because that's a feature film length, standard feature film length. This isn't as heavy as that, but 6 hours of that without redemption is asking too much of a typical Netflix viewer, I would say. But that said, the tonal shift is so acute that I was waiting for it to be a deathbed hallucination or something. He's overdosed in the sewer,
right?
And he's imagining running home in the Eric suit meeting his kid. Yeah. None of it happened. That said, again, it could be argued that the conclusion isn't quite as pleasant as it seems with that final shot. But curiously, no one's talked about that. I thought that would be the thing that everyone talks about.
Seeing Eric watching them at the end.
Yeah, it ends with a shot of him hugging his kid at the set of the show, and the camera pans back, and then it ends with Eric comes into frame eating popcorn or whatever and watching it. I was like, oh, that's meant to mean either this isn't real, or that the mental health problems he has haven't fully been extirpated.
Yeah.
Right?
Or is it supposed to imply that, Eric has kind of taken on a life of his own now that they've actually made him a character in the show, and the guilt has been, Cumberbatch has come to terms with that guilt, and he's actively trying to be a better father. Eric is kind of, he's looking on his work as a job well done.
Whatever you think of it, that's the I thought that was the point. They would be up for interpretation, but not a single review that I've read. And I saw the ending, was I need to read what people are saying about this.
Yeah.
Critical reception was overall positive towards the show. But it does feel like unanimously everyone was saying, what the fuck was up with that ending?
Okay.
But only commenting on how pleasant it was, how Disney it was compared to the rest of the show. No one's saying, oh, but there's an ambiguity about...
Yeah.
I don't know, I find that interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've seen such a totalizingly happy ending in a long time.
Yeah.
Especially for something so ostensibly dark. Edgar, the kid, is back and happy. Vincent is drug-free and even gets on with his pregnant wife's new boyfriend.
Yes.
Mother B seems alright, because they've sort of solved that.
Yeah.
And the NYPD is no longer corrupt. Everything. Utopia. Happy ending.
Yeah.
That's why, the final shot to me is oh, it's too good to be true. But it seems like that's what we were meant to walk away with. Mm. So, yeah, anyway, that was Eric. I don't know if you've got anything else to say about it.
I guess not.
Final review, Unfrosted. Only 2 reviews this episode.
Yeah. Why is that?
Nothing demanded much comment, it feels. I don't know. Next one I think would be heavier.
Okay,
Unfrosted. The new Jerry Seinfeld, well, not new anymore, but the Jerry Seinfeld film that's on Netflix. The things I liked are thus. 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. Jim Gaffigan really committing. And Hugh Grant's really committing. And just Peter Dinklage.
Okay. No further comment on Peter Dinklage.
Just him being in it.
Okay.
Those are the things I liked.
Yeah.
If you see it, you'll know why the idea was there to make this film. You'll get why they did it.
Okay, well, that was going to be one of my first questions.
Okay.
Why?
Well, there is something in serial syndicates and cereal wars. It's not on display here.
No.
But yeah, there is something to, let's treat the kind of rivalry between cereal companies like it's the mafia.
Yeah.
You know, okay, right.
Or that, like the creation of the Pop-Tart was as important as the space race.
Right, exactly.
I know what you're saying. Okay, in that respect.
That's what I mean. You know why on the page, as a pitch, people go, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, I get, you watch it, you go, yes, this justifies itself. No, it doesn't do that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the problem. I mean, it's a big criticism to sort of put earlier in the review.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, I guess, the comedic conceit of it, is look how importantly we're treating this thing which isn't. The problem is, the film, I mean, it's a real product from a real company. Mm-hmm. And the film is treating that product and company with awe and respect.
Yes.
So the sincerity of it kind of undercuts that comedy. I think there's a moment towards the end where they've kind of perfected the Pop-Tart. And Jerry Seinfeld says, these are the two most important squares since tablets that have the Ten Commandments written on them. And I know it's supposed to be a joke. Didn't feel like a joke.
No, it's tricky terrain, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So it's infested with insufferable comedy music.
Yes.
I just didn't think we did anymore.
Seeping its way back in a little bit.
It is, yeah. That, along with its zippy pace and tone, suggests it's playing young and broad, which it is. The problem is, if that is the case, it's not a topic that most kids will really understand or care about. Plenty of the jokes will go over their heads or verge on going too far. If a film is silly enough, the setting and the subject matter don't matter.
Yeah.
But, like, that much. If everybody's slipping on banana peels and getting pies in the face, you can set your film in a bacterial research centre, right? But this film isn't that. It's wedged somewhere between satire and pure goof. In line with what you're saying about, the kind of reverence for the product. It's a conveyor belt of celebrity cameos, just being there. Everyone's saying yes to Jerry Seinfeld, basically, because you would. Jack McBrayer might consider doing something different someday.
Just think about it,
Yeah, just think about it.
Yeah.
I was awaiting the reveal of a major old-time comedy star as the president, as Kennedy.
Okay.
It was Bill Burr. All right, fine. Not what I was expecting, but okay. I was waiting for Fred Armisen to show up, and he did. I was waiting for Patton Oswalt to show up, and he didn't.
No, he didn't.
That's something.
No, that's because he's doing the 1% Club now, isn't he?
What's that?
The American 1% Club.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's... I think I mentioned it before. That's like a game show that Lee Mack is hosting on ITV.
Oh, he's hosting that, is he?
Yeah, like, recently there's been a couple of, like, really good game shows that have come out of, like, terrestrial television.
Stay tuned next episode.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, just, like, solid little concepts that are executed well, and the 1% Club is one of them, where you have like 100 people in the studio, and the questions are like, we asked 100 people, what's the difference between A and B? And it's those kind of like lateral thinking puzzles, and they get more complicated as the show goes on.
Yeah.
And then if you win at the end, you're in the 1% Club, because only 1% of people got it.
Yeah.
And they decided that when they were doing the American version, the correct person to substitute Lee Mack for would be Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, that's always interesting when you see who do they consider the American.
Because Lee Mack, we've kind of said this before about Lee Mack. I don't know if specifically on the podcast, because we've kind of had no reason to talk about him. He's a deceptively intelligent man.
No, yeah, you can't be that witty.
Yeah.
Without having like a fierce intellect. Yeah.
I think it was Richard Osman on the Restless Entertainment podcast where they said that on Would I Lie to You, which is it's another panel show, there's kind of no preparation that goes into that show. They kind of...
As in, no one knows what is going to be said.
Yeah, like, whatever they say on the cards, like, oh, I once did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people don't know ahead of time, so they can't prepare material
you
for
tell
it.
researchers your stories, and then you might not... They might give you something random to read off a card.
Exactly, yeah. And so... And he said that it's the only show he's ever done where they've had to add in artificial pauses.
Yeah.
Because Lee Mack is so quick-witted and he's so fast.
Yes, that you'd think they were editing it to make him look...
Exactly, yeah. And that's the thing, he comes across as just like a regular bloke.
He plays like his type is that he's kind of a working class northern idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not.
He's not.
Smart.
Yeah,
and he's quick-witted. I don't think Patton Oswalt is that.
Well, there is, I don't think there is an equivalent, an American equivalent to Lee Mack. That northern humour is such a unique thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate to America.
But that's what's nice about him doing the 1% Club is that, it's like he's an intelligent host that works in that setting. Mm-hmm. And I don't see... I don't see it. I don't see the point of Patton Oswalt anyway. But
he's good and justified.
But you could have just found someone else to do that.
Well, you could say that about anything, couldn't you?
No.
Of course you could.
Oh, they could have just had someone else play Walter White.
Well, they could have. I mean, we got Bryan Cranston, obviously, but
Yeah.
If Matthew Broderick had played him as it was meant to be, you never know.
No, we know.
Maybe with that case we do. But you could say that about anything, couldn't you? If There Will Be Blood had been made with Philip Seymour Hoffman, we might consider that one of the greatest performances on film.
Okay,
ever.
You could say that about anything, but
Yes.
when it comes to Patton Oswalt,
You
I
are
mean
saying it.
Yeah, I am saying it, and it's right.
Okay, all right. I don't love him. I'm not going to die on the hill of Patton Oswalt, but I don't hate him as much as you do.
Yeah.
I was waiting for John Hamm to show up, and he did.
Yeah.
But he and John Slattery doing Mad Men riff? No. Not for this film.
But comedies have done that. Shows have done that. 30 Rock did that, right? It had...
I don't mind riffing on Mad Men, just not in Unfrosted.
Not necessarily Mad Men. I think in 30 Rock, the example I'm thinking of is the Aaron Sorkin bit, where they start walking down corridors and plays himself.
Do I know you? You know my work.
Yeah.
Walk with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's good.
Why is it wrong in this case?
I was just doing it badly.
Oh,
not the idea itself. It's just done very badly.
Okay.
Like if I'm going to see a Mad Men thing, boardroom, them basically playing Don Draper and Roger Sterling, it's got to be in something worthy. And I'm not like a Mad Men diehard fan or anything like that. It's just like, it's so, for a show that takes itself very seriously, be so readily willing to kind of demean itself for a film like Unfrosted. But it's Jerry Seinfeld, so I get why people said yes.
Yeah.
It's littered with rep gongs, consult earlier episodes, and dramatic ironies, like saying that going into Vietnam sounds like a great idea, things like that. They're so on the nose or contrived, in line with the film's undisciplined, throw everything at it, full-on tone, that you can write them off as, it's all just a piss take. That it's lampooning those types of moments in films. But they aren't distinct enough to announce themselves as parody. Certainly clever parody, so they come across as weak versions of that which they're sending up.
Yes.
Most of the comedy seems to be treating one thing like another thing. The Pop-Tarts are booze or drugs. The Sugar Baron is a Colombian drug lord, milkman of the mafia.
Yeah.
That's most of the humour. There were sequences filmed like commercials, and obviously Kellogg's had to give their seal of approval, coming back to what you talked about earlier. It doesn't matter how ultimately sardonic the film is, it's still an advert.
Yeah.
Like, I know there are some people that liked Barbie that nevertheless had a problem with the fact that it's really just a Mattel ad at the end of the day. It doesn't seem all that concerned with being any good.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that a film is happening.
Yeah, well, I don't really know what it is or what it wants.
I think it's trying to be just a gag machine, like pure humour, no pathos, like just laughs, just get laughs in.
But that's the thing; it has no core comedic philosophy.
Well, I think that's its core comedic philosophy is gags.
But
it's like nothing else, not making a point.
But that's jokes. Like saying, oh, the core philosophy of this horror film is scary.
I think, unfortunately, that is the core philosophy of a lot of horror films.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a strong philosophy.
No.
But we talked about it before, Lee Mack and Not Going Out. It's meant to be like Seinfeld, where it's not like The Office. We're not doing there's no dramatic storyline. There's never any pathos. It's just joke. Funny line, payoff, joke, gag. That's what this is trying to be. No rules. Just, are you going to laugh? Like Jerry Seinfeld, I've seen some interviews with him in the wake of this. And I'm not a massive fan of Jerry. He's like a comedy psychopath. Right?
Well, no one's a fan of his at the moment.
Well, that's made me a fan of him. But
okay.
No, he talks a lot about if you're all I care about is it funny? That's all I care about. I can only really spend time with comedians and enjoy myself and be comfortable. Otherwise, I'm always looking for the funny. A comedy psychopath, right? Like monomaniacally comedy oriented. And that's what this film is. It doesn't care about anything else. It doesn't care about a plot or a theme. It just wants to make you laugh. It's not good at that. It doesn't do it. But that's what it wants to do.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work to create something that, you have to really give a shit about something that gives the impression as though it doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. I'm not saying the film doesn't give a shit. I think he wanted for it to be funny.
No, I'm just saying that, if you want to create something that, has it is.
Yeah, to get the bedhead look, you have to spend a lot of time fixing your hair.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it hasn't put in the legwork. It's just got a lot
it's lazy.
It's just got a lot of people together, and they've just said, say something funny.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It's not a funny film, but I think that was the guiding principle of it.
I think there's a point where Hugh Grant, who admittedly, is at least entertaining to watch.
One of the funnier things in the film.
Yes, one of the funnier things in the film. He is he's a serious actor. Takes his job very seriously, but he plays Tony.
He's
the
a Shakespearean actor playing Tony the Tiger.
Yeah, but in exchange for doing your silly little tiger, I'm suggest that we put on a Shakespeare play, you know, the real art. And I can't remember the exact line, but Melissa McCarthy says something like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, Shakespeare's never been relevant. Shakespeare is not good, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Melissa McCarthy, you've never been as relevant and will never be as relevant as Shakespeare is now.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of Shakespeare is like eternally relevant. That's kind of why he's lasted.
Yeah.
His work has lasted. Yeah, it's, I don't know whether that's an example of like the comedian saying something that he assumes is widely believed.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes, what? I know a lot of people hate Shakespeare because of school and everything. I'm just wondering what the genuine percentage there is of people that went, yeah, I fucking hate Shakespeare. Or people that went, with that, what?
Yeah.
No one else thinks that, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that is an interesting
But that's the thing, it's one of those things where, yeah, even if people say, oh yeah, I hate Shakespeare, how many people have actually given Shakespeare a chance?
Exactly, yeah.
I say that as someone that hasn't engaged in Shakespeare since school.
I hate
But I know better than to say, oh yeah, Shakespeare's
it's rubbish.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. At least give it a 2. I hated Shakespeare in school.
Yeah.
And now, like, I've got my reading list, and basically one of the things on there is everything Shakespeare's ever written.
Yeah.
You know, complete works of Shakespeare. Yeah, you can appreciate that stuff when you're not forced to, right?
Yeah.
But, and yeah, it is like, really? Unfrosted is saying that? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, if Breaking Bad had said Shakespeare sucks, you'd still take issue with it, but look, all right, but you're good, though. It's like, in fact, it wouldn't be a Breaking Bad without Shakespeare, so, you know. No, Jerry Seinfeld, yeah, he's spoken a lot about Israel and everything, which it endeared me to him, because he was on Barry Weiss's podcast, with whom I am in love, her and Katie Spaney. Barry goes for that as well, I don't know about Kaylee. But, yeah, and he started crying about he was talking about Israel, and he started crying about, like, what had gone on, and that endeared me to him.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, that's because I've not seen people's reaction to that. The thing that I've seen people...
Oh, that he's a genocide enabler.
No, the thing that I've seen people take issue with is twofold. It's the fact that he's dating or is married to someone that's much, much younger than him.
Some people go for that, you know?
Yeah, but I don't...
I'm not saying I'm totally on board with it. I there's some judgmentalism around it, but I'm also kind of... if you're of age...
Well, I don't know if the implication was that, like, when they started dating, she was not of age. I don't think it was.
I don't think so. Just like, it's that Michael Bay thing. Of like, some dudes roll that way when they're in their 70s, they date 25-year-olds.
Yeah, so it was that. And then there was also the fact that, like, he said at one point that, like, wokeism is ruining comedy.
Well, that's true.
And so people's response to that has been to say, like, oh, he's right, you know, the liberals stole all of the jokes out of Unfrosted.
Okay, well, yeah, it's not a funny film. You can't defend the film, that's the thing. You can defend him. I mean... I just find it so fascinating that the people that would have a problem with him dating a woman significantly younger than him are the same people that are kind of trying to push the boat on like a whole bunch of other sexual peccadillos and like borderline taboo things.
Right.
It's just like you're surprised that a young, presumably beautiful woman is dating a rich, older man. Get with it. Get with it. That's the way the world works. Is that true that he's dating a younger woman?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
Because I'm sure he's married, isn't he?
Well, maybe to a younger woman.
Okay, well, whatever. That's just something I just don't care about. That doesn't affect my opinion of him one way or another, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you break any law? You know,
well, no. The problem is
they don't like what he said about Israel, so they have to attack him on other things.
I don't know if it's specifically because of Israel, because I heard about his comments that you told me about.
Yeah.
After I'd seen all of these criticisms, I think it was just a simple case of people didn't like Unfrosted.
No, people don't. No.
And so people gone after him.
It's different though. If he was an ally, the vitriol wouldn't be that strong for the film. It's because he has said things like woke is ruining comedy. Though, for anybody that does have that opinion, I would suggest listening to his interview with Barry Weiss, because she puts that to him a lot, like, oh, so you say woke is ruining comedy. And his opinion's a bit more nuanced than you might expect. I know if you are on the opposing side here, you're not going to listen to it because that's what you do. But still, like, he basically says, oh, I don't think it's ruining things, like, just ignore it.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, it's ruining everything.
Yeah.
He hates it, I think, but like, yeah, it's not it's more balanced than you might think. Anyway, so yeah, it's been approached as a gag machine, this film, but it's not funny. It has the pace and the feeling of a skit, as well as the attention to production quality you'd typically expect.
Yeah.
Just set the camera and go. It's that kind of ethos, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we're not making Schindler's List here. As long as you laugh, why care about all the other stuff? Now, comedy doesn't need to be ornate. I mean, that feels like the attitude, right? The comedy doesn't need to be gilded. But look at Edgar Wright films.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, sometimes the comedy comes from the ornateness of it.
Right, yeah. But that's the thing, and you're not laughing here anyway. YouTube videos or random social media reels, they don't need to be anything other than funny. I don't want anything more than them to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Right? This is a motion picture.
Yeah.
It demands a bit more than that.
Well, it's kind of the same problem as, there's that kind of stilted, rigid art style that Family Guy has kind of perpetuated. It means that they can't really animate these animated shows, and so the characters will just stand there rigidly
And just
as the voice actor is delivering comedy. And there's so much you could be doing to get a joke out of that scene.
I mean, the
that
Bo
you can't
Burnham
do.
thing is the go-to, like I'm not, I don't, worship Inside as a lot of people do. But that whole thing with, like, every moment make comedy. He's just doing a funny little dance or whatever. Yeah, that. Like, why wouldn't you?
There's so many tools that you're not utilising to generate comedy.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, Norm Macdonald, I've been watching a lot of him for some reason lately, and, like, his stand-up, he just stands there and just says things and doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I don't require, like, visuals and all that kind of... I appreciate Bo Burnham pulling out all the stops, like, doing everything you can, sound and everything. But yeah, this is a film. It's not... Yeah, if I'm showing you, like, a funny YouTube video, it doesn't need to be well produced, right? Because the only point is that you laugh at it. It's not meant to be a piece of art. This is. I don't know, they would say, no, it's not. It's meant to make you laugh. Well, you can be both. You can do both.
Yes.
Yeah, Seinfeld has generally been bad outside of Seinfeld, the show. Even in that show, well written and otherwise very well performed, he's a smirking version of himself, which might well be himself. But like I said, I've since seen things that make me like him more.
Yeah.
He was just surrounded by a very stellar supporting cast in Seinfeld.
And Larry David.
Well, Larry David, was the genius of that show.
Yeah.
I mean, like, George Costanza is Larry David facsimile.
Yeah.
This could have been decent. Because, again, on the page...
Could it?
The idea of serial war, I quite like. There's something to that.
Okay.
Like, not as the bawdy comedy that it ends up being, but like a social network of serial rivalry. There's something about it that I like. I like the idea of corporate serial intrigue.
Okay.
That's all I mean by this could have been decent. The fundamentals aren't the problem, it's the execution. And executed it was.
Yes.
And that's my final word on the subject.
Well, then we'll leave it at that, I think.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.